Several days afterward, Su Xing descended and landed upon a jutting highland, viewing the faraway mountains. The left had poisonous clouds of miasma, and the right had bugs and other poisonous creatures grow and crawl. There were many deep streams on the mountain, bubbling with the sound of running water. There was an overcast gloom, and caverns abounded in great numbers, the bewildering rock sinister. The swamps within the range of several dozen li splashed with the large bubbles constantly emitted. Soft grass and sludge accumulated within, a fermenting mold that would make those who smelled it vomit. That place is the poison toad pool. Su Xing thought to himself, wrinkling his brow. The Vermilion Bird Territory's topography sure was complicated and steep. A great deal of the valleys had dense evil airs, amassed without dispersing, surging straight up. A strong wind blew, and it had a fishy odor. Clearly, those violent and ruthless clans occupied the area. Seeing the overpowering stench of this poison toad pool stretching several dozen li, the smell reeked. If it was not for the evil smiting writ, Su Xing honestly would have no interest coming to this place. It was no wonder that when she learned Su Xing wanted to go to the poison toad pool, Wu Xiao would have no interest in following. The poison pool interfered with divine intent, and at this moment, that detoxification pearl from when he and Ensuan became sworn siblings was now actually useful. Su Xing swallowed the pearl, and against the permeating stench, he withstood the marshland gases. He looked around and once again soared high on his riding sword to begin his search for the evil smiting writ. In actuality, this evil smiting writ was not a so-called tag, but rather, every sort of legendary materials that had been paired together, to be used with starfire to forge things specially made to confront the star beasts. The evil smiting writ's raw materials were myriad. More or less, there were 5 spirits, 5 poisons, 5 smells, 5 hearts, 5 medicines, and others. Each targeted the constitutions of the general star beasts with different effects that were not at all the same. What Su Xing was currently searching for was the 5 poisons. This sort of 5 poisons evil smiting writ could more easily receive star beasts, especially from the perspective of heavenly stars. The knowledge stars ranked 3rd star beasts certainly would not be that easy to confront. Su Xing also came to the poison pool because he had heard this place had poison toad grass. Circling around the poison pool, as expected, several patches were found within the poison pool. Su Xing furrowed his brow, for he was not pressed to go pick it. On the pond, there reclined a monster whose entire body stunk from head to toe with a toxic gas, currently concealed beneath the pond's surface. For black, gleaming eyes stared at every movement above the pool's surface. If it was not for Su Xing being careful, he would not have immediately sensed it. With a croak, the monster suddenly jumped out of the pond. This monster's form was not large at 3 zhang wide and 5, 6 zhang long. Its shape was apparently a large toad. Its skin had numerous pores and dimples, flowing ulcers all over its body, releasing a nauseating stink that made it appear somewhat disgusting. Furthermore, along with this monster's croaking, its body emitted a black fog from time to time. Poison toad. 2. Su Xing's brows wrinkled once more. Although encountering a demon beast like the poison toad was not surprising, actually seeing this monster was still somewhat thorny. This type of poison toad lived within the toxic gas of the swamp. The poison it sprayed could corrupt artifacts and magic weapons, damaging their spiritual powers. As Su Xing pondered, the poison toad already croaked loudly, and an ominous glint flashed in its glossy black eyes. Between its breaths, a poison fire sprayed out of its mouth. The poison fire was 100 meters wide, dispersing a stink that shot aggressively towards Su Xing. Su Xing did not panic, and instead, flipped his wrist. A binding purple magic clouds, thunder and lightning mixed in his hand. Ever since he had swallowed the Purple Heart's Immortal's dragon pills, Su Xing's purple star transforming chi reached the peak of the first stage and passed through continuous refinement, successfully combining into one with the blooming water divine thunder. The current blooming water divine thunder was no longer water-like and thunder-like as it was before. It was now an entirely purple thunder that was just like a new thunder magic. Liangshan continent practiced many different types of the 5 elements astonishing magics, and each of the 5 elements had many sorts of varieties. Just thunder alone had clinging fire divine thunder, blooming water divine thunder, and more. The majority depended on every sort of ability to be refined, and nowadays, matching it with the purple star transforming chi, Su Xing actually surprisingly refined a new thunder magic in Liangshan continent. The thunder and lightning completely understood attachment to the purple clouds and auspicious light, so Su Xing dubbed it Purple Mansion Immortal's Thunder. 3. In his heart, there existed the thought to test the might of the Purple Mansion Immortal's Thunder. At once, he raised up the Purple Mansion Immortal's Thunder in his hand. That purple magic cloud and immortal thunder in his hand immediately condensed into a purple auspicious flower, flying at its opponent light as a feather, just so happening to encounter the immense poison fire the poison toad sprayed. The poison toad's poison fire had a diameter in excess of 6 to 7 zhang, and that purple thunder flower of the condensed Purple Mansion Immortal's thunder was no more than several inches in size. Truly, it was somewhat like the difference between an ant and an elephant, but let alone that this purple thunder was only so small, it had gone through the purple star transforming chi, concentrating into the quintessential. It could be said this little purple flower was even stronger than that blooming water divine thunder lightning python shape. The two attacks touched in midair, and a terrifying explosion appeared. With a zila sound, the poison fire and purple thunder clashed. A layer of purple magic cloud spread out and wrapped up the poison fire. The originally disgusting poison fire instantly became an immortal's magic cloud. Purple lightning surged, appearing to be inconceivable. At this sort of scene, even Su Xing was slightly stunned when he witnessed it, for it greatly exceeded his expectations. However, when the opposing poison toad saw that its poison fire had been confined, it became enraged. It opened its mouth, and hundreds upon thousands of fist-sized poison fires violently bubbled forth from the pores and bumps in its skin. It fiercely shot over, yet Su Xing twitched his lips and waved one hand. He threw out 100 ice cone talismans. The talismans exploded, dispersing countless ice cones that shot out in a thick storm towards the poison fires. With a resounding explosion, the poison fire and ice cones ripped apart the cloud and poison fire, releasing a large plume of poison gas, interweaving together in midair. The poison toad's poison fire was exceptional as expected. It had broke, but the poison gas vigor was even more fierce. Su Xing stared ahead, and then its figure actually shot backwards. The poison toad croaked, and its silhouette suddenly appeared beneath him. Its speed was quick, as if 1,000 meters was nothing. The poison toad opened its mouth with another bolt of fierce poison flame. This poison flame was even larger than the previous poison fire. Su Xing raised his wrist, and several purple lotus flowers formed from the Purple Mansion Immortal's thunder dropped downwards. Just like before, the purple thunder trapped the poison fire, extinguishing the poison fire's toxic gases. Su Xing waved his hand, and a heaven tearing suddenly shot out. The poison toad cried, and a surge suddenly lifted in the swamp. Su Xing used an innate escape technique, flying onto a boulder. He stared closely at the poison toad that was still where it had been. The wound that had been ripped into it by heaven tearing surprisingly bubbled up. It self-healed, and Su Xing could not help but click his tongue. The poison toad was an ancient demon beast. Although it was only a 6th-rank demon beast, it had the power to poison lakes. This poison pool was practically its magic weapon. Besides being able to endlessly heal its vigor and wounds, it could also use the poison swamp to instantly move. The poison toad was not that intelligent. Having been injured in its own territory, it was immediately infuriated. Without thinking, poison smoke flashed from its body, turning into a black light, rising vigorously to chase him. Su Xing used his sword chant without any hesitation. 12 golden heaven tearings appeared, and they immediately flashed by. Barely chasing more than 100 meters away, golden light suddenly erupted in the escaping poison toad's surroundings. A dull golden barrier appeared all around it, and after the barrier released a dragon roar, several golden dragons randomly appeared and disappeared, pouncing out. The poison toad was startled, instinctively stopping its escape light. Its pairs of eyes rolled about wildly, even issuing a menacing growl from its mouth. The wounds on its skin sprayed poison gas as concentrated as ink, and the swamp below that was mobilized by its urging unexpectedly stopped the attack of the 12 heaven tearings. Su Xing poked with a finger, and the galaxy stage artifact, Sky-Breaking Spear, flew out. The heaven-tearing sword array naturally would not have any effect on his artifact, and at once, it flashed and penetrated the sword array to attack the poison toad within. The poison toad saw this scene, and although its intelligence was not high, it instinctively sensed danger. Immediately, it gave a world-shaking cry, and its body shrunk soon after. Then, it suddenly swelled, developing into the life-cast ability a demon beast naturally had. After the poison toad roared, those poison smokes and poison flames immediately formed into black shields. These small shields were densely packed, wrapping the poison toad inside. In the blink of an eye, it formed 3 layers of poison shield light covers. 5. Just at this moment, the sky-breaking spear and heaven-tearing swords nearly simultaneously stuck onto these light covers. With the sound of a continuous explosion, the sword lights and poison shields intersected each other. For a moment, there was a glaring and blinding light. Worthy of being called the toad of the poison pool, it surprisingly has even refined its life-cast ability. Su Xing clicked his tongue, actually not daring to be careless in the slightest. 100 purple mansion immortals' thunders simultaneously fell, striking against the poison toad's poison pook shield. The poison toad violently roared, and a black beam of light thick as a water jar sprayed out. With a thud, the flying swords could block it for only an instant before it broke away from the flying swords and shot over. The black suddenly spread out wide, and then a pillar of poisonous wind suddenly rolled up in the poison toad's surroundings. In a flash, it unexpectedly blew away the sky-breaking spear, heaven-tearing swords and the purple mansion immortal's thunder. A shadow abruptly rolled towards Su Xing, which astonishingly was the poison toad's poison tongue. Su Xing chuckled and flung his large sleeves. The 12 golden bright and dazzling flying swords instantly came to his side. Having used the life-cast heart flower during refinement, the life-cast sword chant could immediately return to protect their master. The poison tongue was promptly severed by the flying swords, and then the 12 flying swords spiraled backwards, falling down at Su Xing's hand seal, combining into a massive sword. This sword's golden light was brilliant, and its cold air was pressing. The sword tip's dragon scales were like the real things, letting out a dragon roar. When he saw the massive sword change forms, Su Xing expressionlessly extended his hand and powerfully waved it. The golden light slightly flashed, and the huge sword slashed downwards. In confronting this ancient demon beast, Su Xing did not dare be careless, and seeing that this poison toad had cultivated at this place for quite some time, meaning it was more troublesome than the average cultivator. The flying swords released a muffled whistle, and when he spat out the word, "Go." Amidst the buzzing, the huge sword became a golden dragon that fiercely shot forth, copping straight at that poison toad. The poison toad had become accustomed to being the overlord of the poison pool, and the powerful poison on its body once again glistened. Its belly suddenly expanded rapidly. Apparently, it planned to use some ability to counterattack. Just at this moment, the gigantic golden sword instantly flew right above the poison toad's head, bringing a powerful and astonishing dragon cry as it hacked downwards. The poison toad stared at the golden sword above it. Its glossy black eyes blinked a few times, seemingly sensing the threat of the enormous sword. It had only expanded its abdomen by several factors, and it could no longer proceed. Making an odd noise, it spat out a black pellet. With a bang, the black pellet like the marsh clashed with the golden light. After but a brief cut, the huge sword was frozen stiff by this black pellet, and then a black chi pervaded across the sword. A corrupted magic weapon. Su Xing nodded his head. The poison toad's eyes flashed an ominous glint. Immediately, it opened its mouth and made a shrill cry. That black pellet instantly exploded, and the black chi in a flash surged forth like a giant river, wrapping the golden swords within in an instant. The golden swords had turned sluggish. Seeing as how the circumstances had unexpectedly been restricted, from a life cast abilities perspective, this demon beast wanted to consume the spirit chi of the golden swords. Su Xing was blank at first, but the corner of his mouth immediately curled, turning into a cold grin. How could a 7th-rank demon beast dragon scale sword blade be that easy to digest? Forming hand seals, he lightly urged the enormous sword. The golden light on the sword promptly flashed wildly, and the sword-tip's spirit chi overflowed from the dragon scales. The huge sword seized this chance to slightly trembled. Like a dragon emerging from the sea, it broke out of the poison sea's enclosure. In the next moment, it appeared over the poison toad's poison shield, then powerfully chopped downwards. The dragon cry on the sword suddenly swelled. Along with a ripping sound, the poison shield instantly broke, and the sword instantly appeared right above the poison toad. It aimed at the large head, ferociously slashing downwards. The poison toad simply did not expect the circumstances to turn so suddenly. Its meticulously refined poison pellet unexpectedly was incapable of corrupting this magic weapon. By the time it became aware, the flying sword broke through its poison smoke, arriving atop its head. With a croak, the poison toad wanted to escape. Su Xing closed his fist, and dragon claw purple lightning seized it. The heaven-tearing sword immediately severed this poison toad's head. A soul flew out, which Su Xing received with a sigh of relief. For one person to handle an ancient 6th-rank demon beast honestly was somewhat exhausting. The large sword dispersed, and the 12 golden flying swords floated before him. Su Xing inspected them, and his brows slightly wrinkled. This poison toad was incredible, as expected. Even if it was refined using dragon scales, heaven-tearing showed signs of corruption. Luckily, this sort of immemorial sword chant only needed nurturing inside his body for a few days to recover. Just as Su Xing was about to go collect the poisoned toad, a whistling sound suddenly came from the sky. Su Xing hastily retreated and raised his head to look. He saw a delicate silhouette fall from the skies, and when he got a clear look of that girl's appearance, Su Xing firmly suppressed the flying sword's intent to attack. He rose and caught the girl with a leap. The young girl was approximately 12 or 13 years old in appearance. She wore a flower crown and long head cover, a multicolored flower dress, golden flowing shoulder covers. Her button-styled skirt hems and corners hung golden phoenix-like feathers. She seemed just like a fairy that emerged from the sun-golden palace, but this time, the girl's expression was very pained. She half opened her eyes, and her mouth slightly opened, wanting to say something. She was no stranger. She was the leisure star dragon in the clouds Gongsun Sheng. Su Xing shouted in disbelief, "Dragon in the clouds, what happened?" Gongsun Sheng was Maiden Mountain's ranked 4th, number 1 in magic energy, and on several occasions, her attacks had helped him avert disasters. Su Xing held grateful feelings towards this mysterious girl. When he originally saw Gongsun Sheng directly enter the Vermilion Bird territory, he had wanted to find an opportunity to seek out Gongsun Sheng to thank her. He had not expected they would meet at this time. Especially now, when it seemed that Gongsun Sheng was in very poor health. Her entire body's skin released a black chi. Astonishingly, it was poison. Su Xing opened his mouth and spat out the detoxification pearl. "Open your mouth," Su Xing hastily said. Dragon in the clouds Gongsun Sheng obediently opened her lips slightly. Her circumstances seemed to be very terrible, almost to the point of losing consciousness. Su Xing placed the detoxification pearl into her mouth, and only then was that unbearable toxic chi suppressed for the moment. He suddenly heard several sky-breaking noises. More than a dozen figures descend before Su Xing in succession. The newcomers wore demi-race attire, and their whole bodies were adorned with many silver decorations. Wings like those of a roc grew out of their backs. The wings still flapped, and among them, a bare-chested man made Su Xing feel a chill. The wings on his back unexpectedly were golden. He was taller than the others, and his eyes emitted an evil air. His cultivation was astonishingly at supercluster early stage, one of the vermilion bird territory's demi-kings. These winged men and women looked at the Gongsun Shen in Su Xing's embrace, and their eyes promptly released radiance. Cultivator of the vermilion bird territory, quickly release that little girl. And we will let you live. 12 heaven-tearing sword lights wound around, issuing a deterrent. These people were blank, hastily activating each of their own tricks. Were you the ones who injured her? Su Xing expressionlessly asked. The queen has mind to befriend Azure Dragon territory cultivators. Give this little girl to us, and we shall let you go. That supercluster early stage man coldly said. What queen? Su Xing chuckled. This cultivator has killed the poison toad. A woman saw the poison toad's corpse and screamed. It was at this moment that Su Xing's expression changed, and the sword lights shot in all directions. These rock-winged tribesmen had already put up their guard, each clawing out an enormous sword. These large swords were forged of black iron, slashing with the rumble of thunder. With a thunderclap. 2 of the men were in disbelief that they had been pierced through by the flying swords. The rest hastily flapped their wings when they saw this. Their speeds were extremely quick, flying to the sky in a split second. They brandished their wings, and a thunder wind boomed, battling with the flying swords. Su Xing closed his right fist, and several purple lotus flowers shot over. The purple lotuses fell before them in the blink of an eye. The clansmen again used their wings, instantly flying several hundred meters, their speeds honestly swift to the extreme. Another 2 were slower a tad, and when the purple flowers touched their bodies, purple thunder instantly surged. Like 10,000 swords attacking, they lost their lives in the blink of an eye. Su Xing had wanted to use another thunder shot. Suddenly, he sensed an immense pressure attack. The supercluster stage man had secretly approached in the blink of an eye. An iron fist violently exploded towards Su Xing, a thunderclap that broke the air with a boom, incomparably terrifying in power. The 12 flying swords instantly blocked in front of Su Xing, becoming a shield. Bang! The golden-winged man's fist directly banged against the swords. The heaven-tearing swords violently rang. The tipped sword chi fiercely tore out. This man completely did not care, following closely with another fist. Those golden wings flapped to act as repulsion, unexpectedly raising his speed to the extreme. His pressure continuously suppressed Su Xing. Su Xing's throat rolled and nearly bubbled up with blood. The life-cast sword chant and his own life were linked. Whatever harm the flying swords suffered, the cultivator himself would also be injured. This demi-king's fist was like 1,000 caddies of thunder, rolling forth. More than a dozen punches had forced Su Xing back 1,000 meters. The flying sword's dragon scales sparkled, continuously crashing into the opposing fists. If it was not forged from 9th-rank dragon scales, Su Xing could not say for sure whether or not these flying swords would have been smashed to pieces if this continued. The golden-winged man now was also shocked in his heart. He discerned that Su Xing's sword chant ability was extraordinary, which was why he had an exchange at the start. He never expected a galaxy early-stage cultivator could become hostile so quickly. Immediately, he did not hesitate to use his strongest, Golden Wing Thunder Fist, the Rock Clan's most powerful boxing technique. His punch was like a sudden clap of thunder, one that could cleave the skies and split the mountains, especially with flapping of his golden wings that increased his power to the next level. Let alone that this was a galaxy early stage's flying swords, even a similar supercluster early stage demi-king opponent could not necessarily endure this. If it was the former, after 10 punches, the enemy should have been exploded into dust. This sword sure enough had oddities. If he could snatch these flying swords, just maybe he could break away from that she-monster. Thinking of this, the golden-winged man's fists were even more violent as swelling waters. Su Xing was somewhat pained to speechlessness. He had just faced the poisoned toad and now he had encountered this sort of thing. In addition, this man was not like typical cultivators. Cultivators most feared close combat warriors, and that continuous barrage of fists completely immobilized the flying swords, an entirely closed-down situation. Su Xing's brow wrinkled. He knew that if this continued he would inevitably be at a disadvantage. Flee. Su Xing actually had not thought of this, and seeing that these people had injured Gongsun Sheng, Su Xing already had the desire to kill them. His eyes were fixed on each of the man's punches, and in that concentrated instant he received a punch. Su Xing's divine intent moved. The flying swords instantly scattered. With practically no time to hesitate, Su Xing's gaze turned fierce, and his body exerted itself to step onto a point of the flying sword. His whole body was already like a sharp arrow unleashed. While he was moving, he violently waved his left hand. That large body of the golden-winged man also did not break off in the slightest for this reason. His speed was even faster, turning into something like a rocket in an instant. His entire body became straight line in midair. He drew his right hand behind him, and it could be clearly seen his whole body's thousand caddies thunderclap was concentrating there. However, in an instant, his entire right fist was already like a dazzling ball of light. An enormous thunderclap rolled, and a fierce aura splashed in every direction, mighty as a torrent. Boom! Bang! The place Su Xing was at suddenly exploded into a great plume of purple cloud and lightning. Like an earthquake, a heaven-overflowing purple cloud like a hurricane spun around next to him. It pressed towards the golden-winged man, hiding the skies and covering the earth. The man punches, unexpectedly ripping apart the purple thunder, but at the same time his whole body trembled, having suffered a shock. Meanwhile, Su Xing's silhouette once again vanished. The auspicious clouds of the Purple Mansion Immortal's thunder covered the golden-winged man's entire line of sight. A huge thunder roll left him at an even greater loss of what to do. Under the purple lightning Su Xing fully exerted to bring out, those fast as sound movements of the golden-winged man promptly were restricted. Tiny thunder and lightning dares to misbehave before this king. He suddenly threw both his arms in front of himself for protection, tightly joining them together. Then, he opened both his arms, and his wings wildly danced. Proving himself to be of supercluster early-stage cultivation, a powerful chi soul directly dissipated the purple clouds, thunder, and lightning completely from his body's surroundings. It was just that Su Xing had never thought of relying on the Purple Mansion Immortal's thunder to bring him harm, and he seized the chance to already reach his front. Bang! His right wrist flipped, and a heaven tearing appeared in his hand. It resolutely ripped upon the golden-winged man's chin. An immense enough to be frightening ripping sensation instantly exploded in his head and struck him back suddenly. Blood violently sprayed in an instant, and that malevolent face contorted, his expression very wretched. Without any pause, another sword brought the whooshing of wind and once again slashed viciously on the golden-winged man's body. While the surplus energy had not yet dissipated, the flying sword simultaneously flashed. Heaven tearing was like a windmill, carrying a terrifying whistle that continuously cut upon the same place, a sharp tearing sound that was just like a death god's smile. However, in a short instant, golden sword shadows wrapped around the golden-winged man's body. There was a vigorous thunderclap. The swamp suddenly rolled with black waves. Su Xing moved his divine intent, hastily switching to the extreme sincerity soul technique. When he looked again, he saw that Demi-King had become a golden light that instantly escaped 1,000 meters away, breaking out from the flying sword's encirclement. Su Xing saw that of the man's 2 arms, one of them had already been severed by the flying swords. The golden-winged man stared at the Su Xing before him in disbelief. His supercluster early-stage cultivation was unexpectedly unable to deal with this galaxy early-stage star cultivator. Flee! The man shouted. How could Su Xing be willing to let him go? He pointed his finger resolutely. Sword chi skyrocketed. The faces of the other rock clan members were pale. Without the slightest hesitation, they flapped their wings to escape far away. Their speed was extremely fast, going 1,000 meters with a flap. Su Xing simply could not catch up to them, so he did not wish to pursue. His star energy was nearly spent, and if the opponents were still to aim for a mutual death, the one running would be him. Seems this demi-king has his ups and downs. Su Xing thought. He really could not be too careless around a supercluster stage cultivator. He lowered his head to look at Gongsun Sheng. The small girl slightly opened her eyes, weak beyond compare. I'm taking you back first. Su Xing looked at the bag in his hand. It was taken at the same time the flying sword went to kill the golden-winged man. Collecting the remaining items, he then flew back towards Five Colors City. Looking at Gongsun Sheng's feeble enough to fall at the first blow appearance, his forehead was even tighter. A sorry-looking young girl wearing yellow robes and golden armor burst through the mountain forest, thunder all around her, wind howling from all directions. Vaguely, a playful laugh resounded through the forest. The girl was increasingly anxious, her forehead's star crest rapidly flashed from bright to dim. Judging from her pained expression, her flowing cold sweat, it was apparent she had been heavily poisoned. There was a sharp sound in the wind. The young girl held the dog fang gale edge in her hand and slashed. A tearing wind whooshed, and several fine as hair, scorpion-like golden needles were cut down by the saber's wind, but these scorpion needles were very tricky. A few golden needles breached the saber wind's cracks and stuck into the girl's delicate skin. The girl was immediately in pain, nearly stumbling. Little sister, crazy star, lonely fiery star Kong Liang, too, you had better still obediently return to the Liangshan maiden. There was a voice that was like teasing its prey. Two exquisite figures appeared, blocking the crazy star's path in front and back. The newcomer was a small girl of 11 or 12. She wore a tiger pelt long coat and a tiger head cap. Her delicate face wore a kind of innocent smile, showing a cute baby tooth. Obviously, she appeared to be that sort of innocent and pure, but her hands' movements would make people shiver. The little girl wearing a red tiger pelt and children's clothes pinched her hands around golden needles. These golden needles were fine as hair, with a vaguely visible scorpion motif. And the small girl blocking Kong Liang's rear was identical, similar in age, similar in attire, but her expression had a sort of gloom that was completely juxtaposed to her age. That visible baby tooth added a slight malevolence, and she looked at Kong Liang with malicious intentions. Elder sisters honestly indeed keep Kong Nian, 3, constantly in mind. The crazy star Kong Nian panted, her expression increasingly pale. The scorpion needle poison invading her skin currently was quickly stripping her consciousness, forcing her hands and feet to slowly numb. So annoying, hurry up and die. The gloomy little girl seemed like she was looking at a corpse. She abruptly raised a hand, and several green lights violently shot out. The crazy star Kong Nian grit her teeth, suddenly throwing herself towards the little girl with the scorpion needles. The dog Fang Gale saber raised a saber chi, forming intertwined fangs, wrapping layer over layer towards the little girl. That small girl giggled, and the golden scorpion tail needles shot into the saber chi with a hiss. She retreated, and those fine needles easily penetrated the saber chi while Kong Nian dodged to the side. From the corner of her eye, she suddenly glanced a demonic green light. Kong Nian's expression was pale. Rapidly she swung down the saber, splitting the green light, which turned into two snake shadows that dug into her body. Kong Nian's whole body went stiff. She opened her eyes wide and knelt, turning her head around. A cold-blooded curve hung on the corner of that gloomy little girl's lips. Several small green snakes frolicked around her body. Her expression changed, and a two-headed green snake suddenly pierced into her abdomen. Kong Nian whimpered and fell where she was, her whole body incessantly twitching. Elder sister, you are so annoying. Little sister had wanted to play more. The girl holding the golden scorpion tail needles drummed her cheek, somewhat not too happy. Humph. She waved her hand, and green snakes emerged out of Kong Nian's body to return to her palm. Those were flying sabers similar to the bamboo viper. Little Diao, 5, Little Chan, 6, how did you play? A somewhat kind voice abruptly resounded. Little Diao and Little Chan raised their heads. An imperial canopy aromatic cart approached from the skies. Its surroundings had several dozen beautiful female immortals strum lutes and burn incense, their hands clasped every sort of instrument. Several imposing and reserved demi-kin stood to the side of the imperial canopy cart, draped in swan and eye, 7, armor. Golden rock wings grew from their backs, and their eyes attentively scanned their surroundings. The one sitting in the cart was a beautiful and enchanting woman. Her head had a golden thread 8 treasures collection pearl bun, 8, bound with a morning sun 5 phoenixes hanging pearl hairpin, 9, around her neck was a pure gold chi jade ring, 10, the sides of her skirt were connected with pea green palace braids, 2 weights more respectable than roses, her body wore a golden 100 butterflies flower pierced crimson fine silk, 11, tight coat, and her outerwear was enveloped with 5 colors Kasai azurite silver rat gown, 12, below was a jadeite flower scattering silk skirt. 13, she had a pair of red phoenix eyes, 2 bending eyebrows, a slender stature, excellent physique, her heavy makeup did not show, had not yet opened when she laughed and asked. Mother Highness. The 2 girls raised their heads and showed affection. The woman slightly smiled, flying quickly out of the cart. This woman was the Vermilion Bird Territory's famous and diversely discussed Lady Snake Scorpion. Mother Highness, elder sister Kong Nian has already been prepared for you. The little Chan holding the golden scorpion tail needles twitched her lips, grumbling as she looked at that gloomy sister, but elder sister is so annoying, again taking action. The woman being called mother smiled with charm and caressed little Chan's head. No injuries. None. This is good. If you were to be injured, mother would be distressed. Lady Snake Scorpion nodded in satisfaction. Mother, kill her now. Little Diao expressionlessly said. Lady Snake Scorpion looked at the nearly unconscious crazy star Kong Nian, showing a smirk that was like a poppy. Her hands waved, and more than a dozen golden centipedes immediately shot out, enlarging as they bit Kong Nian. Kong Nian lost her breath, and her whole body became light particles. In the sky, a crimson star fell. Lady Snake Scorpion enjoyed the star energy from the sky in perfect content, her body releasing a dark purple chi. The twin girls stared fixedly at Mother Highness each and every move. A moment later, Lady Snake Scorpion opened her eyes. She held Little Diao and Little Chan in each of her arms and leisurely boarded the Imperial Canopy aromatic cart. Return to home. The aromatic cart suddenly stopped for a moment. Several people descended before the cart and knelt. Golden Wings should die. 14. The mission that Queen assigned was unable to be completed. These were not just anyone, but were the rock clansmen that previously fought with Su Xing. At this time, the Demi-King Golden Wings had an arm severed, which appeared very sorry. Golden Wings, how did this happen? Lady Snake Scorpion's tone was slightly discontented. Did this throne not have you lead your clansmen to go capture that dragon in the clouds? How were things bungled to this? Could it be that Leisure Star who had received the Vagu poison was still capable of injuring you? Queen must understand, Golden Wings met with an Azure Dragon Territory cultivator to fall into this situation. Demi-King Golden Wings bowed and explained. Suddenly, Demi-King Golden Wings' face contorted, and he collapsed onto the ground. From within the cart came a cold voice, do you believe that this throne is very easy to trick? That a galaxy early-stage cultivator can injure you like this? Queen, please spare me. Subordinate can bear witness. That cultivator's flying sword ability was extremely out of the ordinary, and it had even killed the poison toad. What? What did you say? The Imperial canopy was pulled open, and Lady Snake Scorpion walked out. Her eyes had fury. A galaxy early-stage cultivator unexpectedly killed this throne's meticulously bred poison eye toad? 16. Could it be that it was killed at the poison pool? Precisely. What did he look like? Did he have a star general? Subordinate did not see a star general, and his appearance was very ordinary. Interesting, interesting. Lady Snake Scorpion coldly smiled. No star general. Then he is not a star master. 17. Queen, Golden Wings fears he is one of the Azure Dragon Territory's great sects. Demi-King Golden Wings said. N. Lady Snake Scorpion grunted. She said alluringly, this throne has heard the great king raise the topic before. The Azure Dragon Territory has turned out a purple thunder monster that has become enemies with the Azure Dragon Territory's 10 great sects. Some of the ancestral masters of these great sects specially came to the Vermilion Bird Territory to execute this monster and desired for the Falling Dragon Mountains. 18. Cooperation, possessing a sword chant that could make Golden Wings feel it was out of the ordinary. It seems the great sects were unmistaken. This throne will carefully consult with the great king about the person in question. It can be presumed he has not been hidden for long. Golden Wings, go back first to properly recuperate. This throne orders your rock clansmen to immediately search for him. As you command. Has that little thief that stole the birth treasure outline been found yet? 19. Subordinate should die. Truly, you are trash. Could it be the entire 10,000 summits are unable to find them? Lady Snake Scorpion sat back down in the cart, returned to Falling Dragon Hall. Mother Highness, are we letting that dragon in the clouds go? Little Chan feels that is such a pity. Little Chan twitched her lips. No matter. Lady Snake Scorpion smiled. She was struck with your heaven and earth, dark and yellow. 20, and the 1,000-year poison dragon goo. 21. Even if she is the dragon in the clouds, she has not much longer to live. 5 Colors City, bright shining hall pavilion. 22. The Vermilion Bird Territory's demi-clans were everywhere, where the strong were respected. On the basis of strength, like the Azure Dragon Territory, it possessed linked and complex major powers. However, the Vermilion Bird Territory's major powers were not named according to capitals. Furthermore, each of their territories was based on their own mountain peak. This 5 Colors City was classified as within the influence of Mount Danxia. 23. Normal demi-kin would not dare be impudent here. Su Xing carried Gongsun Sheng into 5 Colors City. He raised his head and saw a crimson star fall from the sky, darkening his wrinkled brow. A period of no more than a few days had passed since he had come to the Vermilion Bird Territory. He never thought that he would already see 3 stars fall. One fell into the Black Turtle Territory, and the other 2 falling stars descended within the Vermilion Bird Territory. Furthermore, the starfall's direction seemingly was towards the same spot. It seemed this Vermilion Bird Territory brimmed with danger for star generals. Come to think about, it was after the second phase. After the birth treasure outline appeared, how could the star master that obtained the birth outline possibly not exploit this kind of opportunity? Looking at the weakly breathing Gongsun Sheng, Su Xing's heart was briefly anxious. He did not know who it was that unexpectedly could injure the leisure star this heavily. Returning to the room he got from the hall pavilion, Su Xing happened to see Wu Xiao stand in front of the window watching the sky. You have returned this quickly. Wu Xiao raised her brows. Then, she suddenly spotted the small girl upon Su Xing's chest, and her brow wrinkled. Su Xing gently placed Gongsun Sheng on the bed. It was fortunate that he had Suwen's medical arts. It could not be counted as excellent, but he was not completely lacking. Gongsun Shen's breath was weak, and her body was vaguely shivering. He sensed her meridians and breathing had been plugged and disoriented, seemingly as if there was some sort of thing engulfing her star energy/leisure star. Gongsun Shen. Wu Xiao walked over, very surprised. What has happened to her? The Harm Star inquisitively asked. She was Maiden Mountain's #1 magic energy star general, how could she have fallen into this situation? It's as if she's been poisoned. Su Xing's tone was grave. This poison is somewhat strange. With the leisure star's capabilities, how could she possibly have been poisoned? Wu Xiao's eyes squinted, indifferently saying, your servant sees that it is probably goo poison. Goo poison? Su Xing drew in a breath of cold air. This was but the vermilion bird territory's most foul of demonic techniques. However, it is difficult for ordinary goo poison to have any sort of use on a star general. This is perhaps a star general's. Wu Xiao's tone showed a fluctuation. I'm going to buy some medicine now to help her suppress it first. Su Xing saw that Gong Sun Sheng was increasingly in pain. He was not too reassured in his heart. Xiao, help me take care of her. Saying that, he descended the stairs. Wu Xiao was somewhat puzzled over Su Xing's anxiousness. From her perspective, in Su Xing's capacity as a star master, this moment was an exceptionally good opportunity to kill Gong Sun Sheng and obtain her star energy. The number 1 in magic power leisure star was a divine dragon whose head was visible, but tail was not. To kill her certainly was not that simple. Gong Sun Sheng, your luck is pretty good. Wu Xiao said ponderously. The young girl in a haze seemingly responded, making Wu Xiao raise her brows. The Vermilion Bird territory was far from prosperous as the Azure Dragon territory. Everything was very impoverished, but it similarly had its own supply that always exceeded demand. This was medicine materials. The Vermilion Bird territory had boundless mountains in the 10,000s, continuous across several million li. Just this Mount Danxia's range was in excess of 800,000 li. Its surroundings were a ring of mountains, and among them, many had magic medicines flourishing. Due to Mount Danxia's complex terrain, to harvest everything was an impossible task. The only pity was that the mountain range here was continuous and of varying heights, where one mountain connected to another. The Azure Dragon territory once had the thought to invade and occupy these lands, but they had no choice but to give up. Thus, magic medicines were very developed in the Vermilion Bird territory. Just this 5 colors city alone had large and small shops numbering in the hundreds. The absolute majority of magic medicines could be purchased here, and sometimes, some supreme-grade magic medicines could be bought. The magic medicines for the evil smiting writs that star generals found could also be bought here. However, everything was excessively costly, and Su Xing did not want to squander. Spending approximately 100 million liang in value, Su Xing bought several magic medicines that could suppress the goo poison, but how could he have not seen anyone sell the last type of 1,000-year medicinal ginseng? Spectrum Sunrise Pharmacy. Su Xing looked at the last medicine store in 5 Colors City. If he could not find it here, Gong Sun Sheng perhaps would be somewhat troublesome. Could it be he actually needed to go to the mountains to harvest it? The store was very clean, with a concentrated medicinal fragrance. The floor was laid out with glazed tiles while white jade hung on the walls. In the cabinets, a dazzling lineup of some drug ingredients was displayed. Dear customer, what would you like to buy? The shopkeeper was an older woman, who smiled kindly. I'd like 1,000-year medicinal ginseng. Su Xing asked. 1,000-year medicinal ginseng. This item can prolong your life, nourish yin and supplement yang, especially the 1,000 years. This type of item certainly is hard to purchase. Su Xing impatiently said, I want to buy it, so naturally I know. I don't want to hear your explanation. I only want to know where it is sold. The woman discerned Su Xing's anxiousness and was not angry. This store does not have any. Maybe you could go take a look at other shops. Su Xing sighed somewhat in frustration, but he had no alternative. To use 1,000-year medicinal ginseng to make medicine, that was a powerful healing item. Even if it was being sold, it was easy to have it snatched completely away. Just when Su Xing was considering whether or not to exchange magic medicines, a voice suddenly came from the side. Brother Su Xing. Su Xing turned his head and stared. He saw Fang Xiangu and that Zheng Yanran walk into the store. You are all right? Su Xing pulled the corner of his lips up. He saw that Fang Xiangu's complexion was not good, but he seemed unhurt, only somewhat weak. Furthermore, what was somewhat odd was that Fang Xiangu's originally pretty face was apparently even more pretty than before. His skin was white as snow, and perhaps even women would somewhat jealous. Your servant is fine. Fang Xiangu smiled. The Zheng Yanran, whose white hair was like snow, looked Su Xing up and down in interest. She said, You seem very worried. Did something happen? Fang Xiangu also appeared very concerned. This customer wants to buy 1,000-year medicinal ginseng. The woman replied, 1,000-year medicinal ginseng? Fang Xiangu said in astonishment, This sort of thing certainly is very expensive. What is the matter, brother Su Xing? Why do you want this? Su Xing did not want to speak about the matter of the poisoned Gongsun Sheng, so he downplayed his reply. To be quite honest, my wife Xiao's body is somewhat frail, so I wanted to buy it to supplement her body. Somewhat frail? Fang Xiangu stared blankly. Suddenly, he regained his composure and ambiguously smiled. Brother Su Xing truly is bold and powerful. Things like the joys of the bed are better restrained, however, to have that sort of beautiful woman is normal. As it turned out, he thought that Su Xing and Wu Xiao frequently experiencing the joy of being husband and wife had left Wu Xiao debilitated. It was a pity Wu Xiao was not present, otherwise, it was unknown what sort of face she would make. The lady shopkeeper to the side clicked her tongue. That elder sister really would make men envious. Zheng Yanran laughed in jest. Su Xing was not inclined to explain. He saw that Zheng Yanran was somewhat not too normal. Just as he thought of taking his leave first, he suddenly heard Fang Xiangu say, However, since this is a matter of the elder sister, Fang actually knows of a place where brother Su Xing perhaps can buy the 1,000-year medicinal ginseng. Where? Su Xing's tone was somewhat urgent. After Fang Xiangu purchased a few magic medicines and stepped out of the store, he said, I shall bring brother Su Xing over, however, I cannot guarantee they definitely would have it. Having hope is always good. Su Xing smiled. Fang Xiangu brought Su Xing through several streets, appearing to be very knowledgeable. They arrived at a cabin whose outside appearance was simple and crude. Several guards blocked their way, and the language they spoke was not the most widespread official language, but the local demi-language. He did not expect Fang Xiangu would surprisingly give a fluent reply in demi-language. The guards nodded and let the group pass. Has brother Xiangu come here before? Su Xing asked. Fang Xiangu smiled. It is embarrassing to speak of it, but your servant was born in the Vermilion Bird territory and has cultivated at Mount Danxia for more than a decade. No wonder. This demi-language certainly is very difficult to learn. Su Xing suddenly understood. Entering the house, there was a secret door. Entering that, there was an abnormally spacious main hall. The crowd inside was bustling and exceptionally lively. In the great hall was an elevated platform, where an old man with a white beard past the knees could be seen continuously peddling wares. Su Xing could be considered to have enjoyed this scene before in the Azure Dragon territory. It was an auction. Fang Xiangu explained, this place is Five Colors City's underground marketplace. Only those introduced by acquaintances can enter, and the items inside are all rare things. Let alone that the Vermilion Bird territory has vast numbers of stores, supreme-grade magic medicines have strict restrictions. Things like the 1,000-year medicinal ginseng generally are not sold in stores. Brother Fang sure is versatile and able. Su Xing praised. Brother Su Xing only needs to linger around, then you naturally will also understand. This does not count as any sort of talent. Fang Xiangu's extreme modesty gave others a good impression. Cousin, I wonder if that is being sold. Zheng Yanran covered her mouth, dully eyeing the platform. This auction was very large with many people as well, but the bidding was not very fierce. Su Xing looked around. There were many cultivators who came from the Azure Dragon territory, and not finding anyone from the 10 great sects made Su Xing feel relief. A majority wore the odd garb characteristic of the Vermilion Bird territory's demi-clans. Su Xing only knew the major points about the Vermilion Bird territory, but he did not know the finer details. With Gong Sun Shen wounded, even something as minor as collecting the evil smiting writ was not that simple. It was necessary for him to think of a way to understand the powers of this place as soon as possible, especially star masters like that Lady Snake Scorpion and such. However, the Vermilion Bird territory's societal structure was somewhat complicated. This sort of thing was not a simple thing to clearly understand. Su Xing glanced at Fang Xiangu. Perhaps he should find time to ask him. Next is 800-year medicinal ginseng, 2 roots. The elder's clear voice pulled Su Xing back from his thoughts. He saw the old man take out a box lined with spiritual power. Inside the box were 2 roots of medicinal ginseng, wafting a medicinal aroma. Although these were only 800 years old, 2 roots could suffice as replacements. The 800-year ginseng appeared, and everyone present stirred. Very quickly, someone made the opening bid. The opening bids here were not gold at all. Instead, cultivators mostly brought a few things for a barter. Whoever's things in the end could come across as the most interesting were able to take the auctioned item, which was considered astute. 1 nebula high-grade artifact, 3 bottles of sweet scent pills. 2. You want to exchange these 2 things for an 800-year ginseng? 1 galaxy stage artifact. A male cultivator sneered. 10 bottles of miasma dissolving pills, 3. 10 bottles of poison expelling clear heart pills. A female cultivator wearing beautiful red clothes began to bid. Big brother Su Xing, won't you call out a price? Zheng Yanran covered her mouth, her eyes brimming with cunning. Do not worry, observe first. Su Xing replied and calmed down. He paid attention to these cultivators, mentally converting the items of these people into an equivalent value in gold. Although the cultivators were in complete lack of demand for gold, it was acted as Liangshan's most common sort of currency in existence. The most basic system of values learning was carved into every star cultivators as a subject that was required to be learned. Su Xing more or less approximated, and from the things they called out, it was approximately 40 million liang gold. Su Xing's heart then had an idea, and he raised his hand, shouting, 50 million liang gold. The originally warm audience was instantly in an uproar. Is this in money, or the converted value of his things? 50 million liang of gold. What use does gold have? Does he not know the rules? Everyone present whispered. From the perspective of star cultivators, the value of gold was not that great. 50 million liang was not essential, and all gazes vaguely glanced at Su Xing. When they saw it was an unfamiliar face from the Azure Dragon territory, they wanted to make fun of him, but they restrained themselves upon seeing that Su Xing's cultivation was galaxy stage. Does brother Su Xing not have any good items? Fang Xiangu was also surprised. Your servant has some things that can be exchanged. No need, I have my own plans. Su Xing smiled. 50 million liang of gold. Humph. 2 galaxy early stage artifacts. A large man said, annoyed. He took out the artifacts, and Su Xing took a glance. The value was approximately 60 million liang. 70 million liang. Su Xing said calmly. The big man cursed, you brat, you must be doing this on purpose. Using gold to buy magic medicines. Are you brain dead? I will add a bottle of pills worth 5 million liang. 90 million liang. Su Xing did not hesitate at all. Fuck you. Everyone trembled. Even if the 80 million was in gold, this sort of value made them shocked regardless. Although the 800-year medicinal ginseng only bolstered qi, it was far from this much in value, and it was not 1000-year medicinal ginseng. This was honestly inconceivable. The expressions of some cultivators that had wanted originally to tease him immediately changed. After all, a cultivator that could bring out this much money was a very rich man. "Brother, do you have this much money?" Fang Xangu gawked. In actuality, the Azure Dragon Territories auctions were all conducted with bid values in terms of gold, which was simpler. Just those pills and artifacts had values that were hard to assess, and at times, there were mistakes, which would give many cultivators headaches. Su Xing affirmed but did not say a word. Moneybag Chai Ling had given Su Xing 10 billion, 5, which was completely all in gold. There were practically several mountains of gold crammed into an astral bag, and what Su Xing currently lacked the least of was money. There certainly was no way that he could not exchange gold for a few precious things he wanted to buy. However, toys like the 1,000-year medicinal ginseng were only magic medicines, far from the level of artifacts and magic weapons that required exchanges. After Su Xing made a bid of 100 million, everyone was absolutely silent. "Fuck it, I give up." The big man cursed dejectedly as he returned to his seat. Without any delay, Su Xing obtained the 800 years for the 1,000-year medicinal ginseng. Su Xing also observed the subsequent auction, and he never thought that an ice kite Arctic jade would unexpectedly appear. Su Xing again named a bid, and he did not expect to surprisingly actually use 800 million to buy it. This made Su Xing greatly shocked. He felt as if he had come across a fool. Some people would exchange for pure gold, however, he was not that generous. Su Xing in the end spent another 100 million to buy a piece of snow spirit essence as a gift for Fang Xiangu, who was unable to purchase it. On one hand, it was a favor to build a connection, and on the other, it was unavoidable to slightly have the idea to become acquainted with one another. In the end, Su Xing had spent 1 billion liang in gold, which made everyone indignant. They had seen people with money, but they had never seen anyone with this much. The indistinct groaning gradually turned softer, and Gong Sun Xing's complexion was much better compared to before. "Has it been resolved?" Wu Xiao dully asked. Su Xing shook his head, a worried expression across his whole face. "The medicine I concocted can only suppress the flare-ups of the goo poison in Gong Sun Xing's body. To have the medicine act as an antidote is impossible. If it was only poison, there was more to be said, but as it turned out, it was goo poison." Although Su Xing did not thoroughly understand this sort of demonic technique, he had heard news about it. It was said that a cure could only happen by ingesting the blood of the goo master. "Actually, your servant has an even simpler idea." Wu Xiao smiled thoughtfully. "What idea?" "Would it not be all right for you and this Gong Sun Sheng to sign a star dual covenant? A star dual covenant allows for unexpected recoveries, and although your servant does not know what it will do for a star general, perhaps it would be that bit of useful." Wu Xiao stared profoundly at Su Xing. That cold and elegant expression of hers as well as the tone of her intent brought a bewitchment more troublesome than the goo poison. "That would need to wait until she wakes up," Su Xing bluntly said. Wu Xiao was taken aback. She snorted, "You honestly do not hide one bit." "What is there to hide?" "A matter like turning an enemy into a friend was without doubt better. Actually, I quite want to sign a contract with you, Xiao." This man very shamelessly expressed his own desires. Wu Xiao curled the corner of her lip, her expression saying, "You can have your grand dreams. But we had better first discuss this goo poison." Su Xing recovered his serious expression, feeling Gong Sun Xing's pulse and aura. Although it had steadied, the result was apparently somewhat grave. Whatever goo poison it was had hid away in her body and was consuming her star energy. If this went on, sooner or later, Gong Sun Sheng would undoubtedly be consumed into a cripple. The Leisure Star is ranked 3rd, the strongest magic star general among you sisters. Seeing Wu Xiao nod her head, Su Xing continued, "But unexpectedly, there isn't any room for resistance. Xiao, don't you feel that this is a very big danger?" Wu Xiao knew what Su Xing was alluding to. To be able to use goo poison to instantly dispatch the number 1 magic energy star general, that enemy was extremely dangerous any way it was put. The harm star pilgrim did not deny Su Xing's worries. According to what your servant knows, those among the Maiden Mountain sisters that use goo poison are very few. Those that could have such deterrent perhaps would be the rank 34th double-headed serpent Xia Zhen and the rank 35th twin-tailed scorpion Xia Bao, too, but for them to wound Gongsun Xing this heavily, perhaps they used some special trick to do so. Pausing, Wu Xiao said, use the birth treasure outline to take a look, and then you will know. The birth treasure outline records everything related to the Maiden Mountain sisters. Perhaps the origin of this goo poison can be found. Su Xing could only do as much when he thought about it. Flipping out the birth treasure outline, he aroused his star energy. The birth treasure outline immediately shone bright as light. The pages promptly flipped, stopping with a flutter. Writing like a reflection in the water slowly appeared, and Wu Xiao also curiously moved forward to come and see the bottom of the matter. The birth treasure outline very quickly revealed all of the current information on the Leisure Star Dragon in the clouds. Gongsun Sheng. Star position, Leisure Star. Star name, Gongsun Sheng. Nickname, Dragon in the Clouds. True name. Rank, 4th star. Weapon, Pine Brand Ancient Sword, 2 star, Star Beast. Rank, Realm, 10,000 Technique. 7th stage. Innate skill, Clear Skies. Wandering, 3, 5 elements, Wood Yellow. Rank Special skill, Cloud Wandering. Azure Dragon. Turn current status, no contractor, weakened, poisoned, can be conquered. Detailed materials, bears the heaven. Earth. Dark Yellow, 5, skill, Snake and Scorpion. Beauty's Kiss, 6, of the double-headed serpent Xia Zhen and the twin-tailed scorpion Xia Bao, extremely weak. Heaven. Earth. Dark Yellow skill. Su Xing looked at the material on the page and could not help but stare blankly. So it turned out to be this. No wonder. Wu Xiao's tone was ice-cold and thin. Xiao, just what is the meaning of this? Su Xing asked. Wu Xiao furrowed her brow. Heaven, Earth, Dark and Yellow are the layered styles of most star generals. Put another way, these types of styles each embody one of the star general's quintessentials in one move. The might is powerful, but to utilize Heaven. Earth. Dark Yellow requires each star general to be interconnected in spirit, harmoniously reaching a realm. Let alone Gongsun Sheng, perhaps your servant would perish without doubt should your servant sustain this Snake and Scorpion Beauty's Kiss. This powerful? Su Xing was hoarse. Could it be you do not know even a bit? Past star duels had 2 star generals use their Heaven. Earth. Dark Yellow to dispose of even high grades of star generals. Wu Xiao apathetically said. A past star duel had a star master rely on 2 earthly stars using their Heaven. Earth. Dark Yellow to become overlord. Su Xing shook his head. Wu Xinjie actually had never raised this sort of subject with him before. But the stage to have a star general interconnected with each other in spirit is very difficult. They were rare as phoenix feathers in the previous 8th generation star duels. If it was not Xia Zhen and Xia Bao, it would be cause for surprise. Wu Xiao's tone was heavy. In the secret rumors of each of the star generals, the double-headed serpent Xia Zhen and the twin-tailed scorpion Xia Bao always were the most outstanding existences among the 108 star maidens. The reason was very simple. This pair of twin sisters were the sole existences among the star generals able to simultaneously sign 2 contracts with any star master. Their nature that had excellent heart also had mutual sensitivity. Comprehending their Heaven. Earth. Dark Yellow was not at all surprising, however, their goo poisons were useless against contracted star generals. Star maidens could recover in the star nest, killing any snake or goo. But as far as star generals without a contract were concerned, perhaps even Wu Xiao would feel Xia Zhen and Xia Bao were a snake and scorpion that were definitely not to be trifled with. Often, a moment of carelessness could leave no hope for a reprieve. Your servant never thought that after the conclusion of the 2nd stage, they would comprehend the Heaven. Earth. Dark Yellow. Wu Xiao coldly grinned, feeling this was interesting. So things are like this. Their blood is needed to cure Gongsun Sheng. Wu Xiao affirmed, or killing them can break the gu. The harm star's smile was somewhat pensive, but to kill them is perhaps not that simple. For purely using their heaven-earth dark yellow to dispatch Gongsun Sheng is somewhat not too possible. It must be that they use some kind of exceptional intermediary. They should have an extraordinary star master in order to achieve this. However, if they truly used some exceptional intermediary, perhaps there would be no way to recover by signing a contract. Wu Xiao sympathetically looked at Gongsun Sheng, regretfully saying, truly such a pity, the number one in magic energy dragon in the clouds being sent off in this sort of manner. The atmosphere turned silent. The lady snake scorpion. Su Xing bounced out these 4 words. Your servant believes it should be her. Wu Xiao nodded. Su Xing drew in a breath of cold air. Wu Xiao saw that things were apparently somewhat serious. She inquisitively asked, what do you know about her? This indeed is a star master defiant of the natural order. Su Xing nodded. When he left the auction, Su Xing specially turned to Fang Xian Gu to understand the range of the powers of the Vermilion Bird territory as well as the matter of Lady Snake Scorpion. The intelligence Su Xing found greatly exceeded his expectations. Originally, in Su Xing's understanding, Star Masters should be a generation younger to be talented. After all, they appeared after the Star Generals were born. Any way it was put, there could not possibly be too great a difference, but this Lady Snake Scorpion certainly was substantially different. She originally was Seedling Clan, 7, specially cultivating the Gu Poison arts. This sort of Gu Poison art did not need the support of star energy. Selecting this path before the Star Generals were born, those in the Vermilion Bird territory were terrified at the mention of her Gu Poison. Often, she could not use star energy and be able to make star cultivators wish to die. She always asserted she wanted to contract the Xia twins that were number ones in Gu Poison, the double-headed serpent, and the twin-tailed scorpion. Consequently, the Vermilion Bird territory dubbed her Lady Snake Scorpion. What Su Xing admired was this Lady Snake Scorpion's savage intelligence. Starting to promote herself before the star duels so that she was known to everyone in the Vermilion Bird territory, the result after the star duels began was that signing the Xia twins was a matter only to be expected, that the Star Generals famous for Gu Poison would join hands with this Lady Snake Scorpion. This simply was nightmarish existence. Besides this, there was another point that made Su Xing feel this Lady Snake Scorpion was abnormal, and that was her status. For the Star Masters Su Xing encountered before, if they were not royal princesses, they were commandery princesses, but this Lady Snake Scorpion was actually great. She had the status of a married woman, and her husband's background was not small. He was the Falling Sky Great Sage Rock Demon King. 8. Rock Demon King. Falling Sky Great Sage. Wu Xiao was engrossed. It sounds like he apparently has some assets. If it was only having some assets, that would be fine. Su Xing smiled, perhaps Emperor Liang would find it hard to compare. Several 100,000 demi-clans could be found throughout the entire Vermilion Bird territory. Demi-kings were the chiefs of clans, but demon kings were a level higher, directly managing the demi-kings. The majority of demi-clans here could only survive by realigning to some mountain peak. Gradually, this would form a major power. The Vermilion Bird territory used the 5 directions of east, west, south, north and middle to demarcate the 5 immense powers. They were divided into the East District Danxia, South District Falling Dragon, West District Silver Knight, North District Immeasurable as well as the scattered Center District Deer Pursuit. That year of the matter when the Vermilion Bird territory invaded the Azure Dragon territory, it was when 4 of the districts achieved mutual understanding that they moved. So it turned out to be this. This Lady Snake Scorpion actually is shrewd. Wu Xiao sneered. Utilizing star energy was the whole of a Star Master. Perfectly cultivating Gu Poison, if they added on her husband, the Rock Demon King, she honestly was the most powerful of the Star Masters Su Xing currently knew. Then what do you plan to do? Your servant sees that you had best give up on Gongsun Sheng. That woman definitely will not leave things at that with you. Perhaps, sect members currently are already scouring everywhere for you. Wu Xiao truly was somewhat unable to see through Su Xing. If Su Xing actually wanted to sign a contract, he could forcefully sign one while Gong Sun Sheng was unconscious. Could it be that this guy planned to accept her entirely in body and mind? A phrase suddenly appeared in Wu Xiao's mind. At this time, Gong Sun Sheng had already awakened. Gong Sun Sheng did not show any panic, only staring steadily at Su Xing, as if she was a silent doll. The girl's figure leaned, and in the next second, she already sat upon Su Xing's shoulders. Her body weight was very light, like a weightless feather. She lowered her head to look at Su Xing, her eyes seemingly transmitting an unintelligible message. You saved me before. Me saving you this time is something that ought to be done. Su Xing smiled. Gong Sun Sheng blinked, silently pondering. What is your true name called? Su Xing curiously asked. Gong Sun Sheng seemingly was habitually silent, using her finger to gesture in the air. A formless airflow slowly took shape into 3 stream-like ancient-style characters. Gong Sun Huang. 9. Something has happened in the Vermilion Bird territory. Gong Sun Huang suddenly opened her mouth and spoke, her voice faintly discernible. What happened? The Vermilion Bird territory's birth treasure outline has been stolen by a little sister without a contractor. Gong Sun Huang tilted her head to the side. This is very normal. Wu Xiao did not feel this was odd at all. What star general is she? Su Xing sensitively asked. Gong Sun Huang blinked. The 104th little sister inferior star. The living goddess of lightning Wang Dinglu snatched away the birth treasure outline. When Wu Xiao heard this information, she felt this was simply unbelievable. Gong Sun Huang cocked her head to the other side, assuming a pondering posture. Seems to be her. That truly is incredible. Su Xing said in admiration. Previously, he had encountered Wang Dinglu the first time he plundered the heavenly spirit grade chests. At that time, Wang Dingliu's flash movement left Su Xing with a very deep impression. At that chest plunder, she easily stole the chest from under their noses. But this purple star grade birth treasure outline has to require refinement. How did she take it? Wu Xiao felt confused. Gong Sun Huang shook her head, expressing she did not know. There is probably some inside information within. Su Xing thought. He then asked Gong Sun Huang about the gu poison, and it was more or less the same as he thought. After Gong Sun Huang entered the Vermilion Bird territory, she found a ravine whose presence was odd, so she curiously stepped forth to investigate. By Gong Sun Huang's clear skies wandering ability, she naturally did not fear danger, but how could she have known that an array had been laid at that place? Before she could approach, she was discovered by the Xie twins and battled with them. Afterwards, only after she was struck with the Heaven-Earth Dark Yellow Skill, Snake and Scorpion Beauty's Kiss, and a 1000-year Gu Dragon Poison, did she flee. She never expected a crowd of winged demi-kin to launch a close pursuit. Originally, Gong Sun Huang had wanted to rely on the poison toad pool's swamp to break away, but by curious coincidence, she encountered Su Xing, thus displaying the scene of the heavenly falling cloud dragon. So it turned out to be a 1000-year gu poison. Wu Xiao nodded her head. If it was this, Gong Sun Sheng falling to this level was not surprising at all. 100-year gu poison was severe, 1000-year was even more so, and a 10,000-year did not need thinking. If astral treasures were used as a comparison, 100 years were earthly fiend, 1000 years were heavenly spirit, and 5000 year would be purple star. As for 10,000 year, that would be a legend. For Gong Sun Sheng to run into a heavenly spirit grade astral treasure, would that not be a scene of her fleeing? This Lady Snake Scorpion is somewhat problematic, as expected. Do you still plan to go find her? Wu Xiao glanced sideways at Su Xing, feeling that if he went to confront this poisonous scorpion with his current capabilities, that it would be foolhardy. Judging from the multiple falling stars in the Vermilion Bird territory, this Lady Snake Scorpion simply was seizing the chance to execute star generals. Su Xing naturally knew the dangers, but heaven never barred anyone's way, let alone, he would meet this Lady Snake Scorpion sooner or later. I'm going out first for a while. Su Xing patted Gong Sun Huang, and the girl smartly descended from Su Xing's shoulders. Where are you going? Wu Xiao asked. To Falling Dragon Mountain. Su Xing was already gone, his voice vaguely audibly. South District Falling Dragon Mountain, with a range of hundreds upon 10,000s of li, ringed by linked mountains with boundless peaks. Near Falling Dragon Mountain, there was a valley with black clouds masking the sky. The medicine materials on the mountain for the 5 poisons were innumerable. With a domain of nearly 100,000 li, the 5 poisons mountain's poisonous insects were too many to mention, which was why it was called 5 Poisons Mountain. The Vermilion Bird territory's many 5 poisons demi-clans all were fond of coming to this 5 Poisons Mountain to forage for medicine ingredients, but 10 years earlier, the Falling Sky Great Sage Rock Demon King suddenly lay in array at 5 Poisons Mountain so that Lady Snake Scorpion could cultivate a Jade Alum Palace. 2. Since then, the 100,000 li region of the 5 Poisons Mountain became a forbid dance, and this made many demi-clans and cultivators complain constantly. Fortunately, the outermost areas of 5 Poisons Mountain still acquiesced to demi-clans and cultivators coming to gather 5 Poisons medical materials, so afterwards, no one uttered a word. On this day an imperial canopy aromatic cart descended from the skies. The embroidered bags reflected brightly, dispersing the dense fog. The cart landed before the Jade Alum Palace, and an alluring beauty gracefully stepped off the cart. She hugged 2 little girls in each of her arms. Mother Highness, little Chan wants to go play. Little Chan said. Go, then. Lady Snake Scorpion slightly smiled. On this 5 Poisons Mountain, there was no need to worry about anything. Little Chan ran down the mountain in excitement. Little Diao. Little Diao shook her head. N. The 4 tough and stocky demi-clansmen guarding the door deferentially half-knelt. Lady, the great king has already waited a long time. Oh, this queen realizes. Lady Snake Scorpion ascended the palace. The Jade Alum Palace was constructed on one of 5 Poisons Mountain's peaks. Leading to a flight of stars, was a stairway made from an intertwined scorpion and viper. Entering the centermost great hall, Lady Snake Scorpion saw a man tall and sturdy in stature. His appearance was magnificent, and beneath the surface, he had a sort of dignity characteristic of earthly monarchs. He was draped in a crimson cape, and embroidered on the cape were 9 5-claws golden dragons. His underclothes were silver armor. Unlike silver or iron, it was unknown from what material it was constructed from. Although his attire was extremely arrogant, his breath was restrained and unrevealed, not angry but awe-inspiring. The great king is quite refined. Lady Snake Scorpion smiled in full. Little Diao did not like this man at all, so she might as well escape into the star nest. This imposing and reserved man was the overlord and commander of a part of the Vermilion Bird territory, the sky-falling Great Sage Rock Demon King. Lady Snake Scorpion settled upon his chest and laughed provocatively. Why has the Great King come at this time? Did the Great King not make an appointment with Immeasurable Mountains, Founder Zhaohua, 3, and Silver Night Mountains, Holy Mother Yongsheng, Queen Lady Yuchun, 5, to discuss the matter of handling that Mount Danxia? The Rock Demon King was like a boulder and remained unmoved. His tone heavy as iron, that Mount Danxia has now collaborated with the Azure Dragon territory. It has been determined they are to be eliminated, however, that adulterous couple has grown accustomed to laying in their nest, and I, 6, have come to take a look. How is that, 10,000-year goo? Lord Husband truly is anxious. Lady Snake Scorpion rippled fully with charm, her skillful hands slowly stroking the Rock Demon King's body. Wife has cultivated that goo poison art from since wife was a child. I cannot endure any longer. Is this to cause me harm? The Rock Demon King was stern. Lady Snake Scorpion smiled and left the Rock Demon King's chest. "Wife shall let Lord Husband see." She flourished her hand as she spoke, and an old mirror appeared in her hand. Inside the mirror was reflected the scene of a pitch-black cavern, and countless grotesque poisonous insects and beasts mingled inside. These poisonous creatures continuously killed each other, destroyed each other, with a demonic air that even the mirror seemed to shudder at. "Not bad, not bad. This 10,000-year goo is a fearsome beast to destroy the world." The Rock Demon King exclaimed in admiration. "It seems it is nearly there. It still requires several dozen days, and then it can emerge. At that time, the Vermilion Bird territory would entirely be the Great King's." Lady Snake Scorpion smiled. This still is wife's contribution. With this 10,000-year goo, the star duels count as nothing." The Rock Demon King revealed a smiling expression. It seemed he recalled something, and the Rock Demon King's brow locked tight. "Most recently, many cultivators, star cultivators, and star generals from the Azure Dragon territory have come. In the end, we must be careful. Although they say they have come for the purpose of confronting the Purple Thunder monster, there is no guarantee they would not sense anything. Your wife has already foreseen today would happen. All of the 5 poisons mountains surrounding 10,000 li have been set up with layers of forbid dance mechanisms. With the Great King's several dozen demi-kings keeping watch, even a supervoid cultivator would have no way to return." Lady Snake Scorpion coldly grinned. "This is good, it is for the best the wife is thorough. Come, drink a cup with me, speak about the star duels." The Rock Demon King's mood was very good. Both evading and stopping, the time turned to several days before Su Xing finally arrived at a path towards the Vermilion Bird territory's so-called South District. The large mountains before him were continuous and towering, with many massive peaks of 1,000 zhang, of 10,000 zhang. Lifting his head to look at their tips, it seemed they had joined together with the blue dome of heaven. Serene mountain springs and streams, forests of pine and bamboo, with birdsong and the fragrance of flowers, the topography here was as if the Azure Dragon itself had lain down, crawling amongst the clouds, just as if it had yielded. This was Falling Dragon Mountain. Su Xing climbed halfway up a mountain and saw in the distance a sharply contrasting mountain area. That black fog lingered, a polluting miasma with a demonic aura. Apparently, that was a muddled world. That place should be the oddity of 5 Poisons Mountain that Gong Sun Xing sensed. Su Xing spoke to himself, escaping there on his riding sword. 5 Poisons Mountain looked seemingly very close, but getting there actually cost Su Xing approximately an hour. Turning past several hundred mountaintops, this 5 Poisons Mountain had circling mountains and winding valleys. Surrounding it was a layer of faint fog. Its swamps and poison ponds were innumerable, and a deeper point was sight of the countless black lights of and poison gas concealing the mountain cave. It only shot halfway into the sky before falling back down again, launched but never dispersed. It was a completely opaque substance. It seemed as if there was some sort of array. He had come to this Falling Dragon Mountain to look at the situation on one hand, and on the other, he wanted to forage for a few 5 poisons materials. Lady Snake Scorpion's Jade Alum Palace was established within. A truly eccentric woman unexpectedly established her own palace within such a vile environment. It seemed every kind of the Lady Snake Scorpion's 5 poisons was actually here. However, this 5 Poisons Mountains range had several forbid dances. Those without tags would be killed without pardon, and only the surroundings could provide others with what to pick. Su Xing flipped his wrist, and a bag made from golden feathers appeared. This bag was easily severed from Demi-King Golden Wings during their original confrontation. The Demi-King naturally had many good things on his person: crystals and spirit jade, purple and normal gold, magic weapons and medicines, talismans and secret arts, all in abundance. However, the most useful item was the Demi-King token. The general information about Falling Dragon Mount recorded on the token was perhaps what Su Xing most lacked in. As far as using this demi-king token at the Five Poisons Mountain, misleading others with lies, was an idea Su Xing actually did not have. Traveling on this road, Falling Dragon Mountain became caves by the thousands upon the 10,000s, all leaking baleful airs rushing into the 9 firmaments, ferocious among the mountains. Su Xing spotted many supercluster-grade demi-kings guide demi-soldiers in martial arts drills and array drills. These demi-soldiers were each odd. Some had 2 wings on their backs, some had dragon horns growing out their foreheads, and still others had tails like a snake or scorpion. There were also many elite demi-soldiers with distinct armor, glowing with amulets, flickering now and then. If these cultivators and soldiers did not cultivate magic energy, they cultivated martial force. Their quantities were immensely many, and all the way, their auras were in the several 10,000s. In addition to Falling Dragon Mountain's surplus millions of demi-clansmen, the demi-soldiers numbered unbelievably many. The Su Xing who was watching was somewhat speechless. If he had this sort of power, the 10 great sects would be nothing more than a ball. Su Xing's heart schemed. This vermilion bird territory respected the strong, so would it not be better to get rid of the Rock Demon King to obtain Falling Dragon Mountain? However, this sort of thinking was just a playful fantasy. This Rock Demon King's cultivation was above supercluster. Su Xing was not arrogant enough to be at the level of challenging supervoid cultivators. In the surrounds, Su Xing gathered many medicines of the 5 poisons, so he prepared to return. 5 Poisons Mountain lived up to its name, and all the medicinal materials that could be classified as poisonous were all here. Just the surroundings were inexhaustible. When Su Xing came, he saw many demi-clan cultivators gather medicines into gourds or place grasses into wicker baskets. These cultivators had no lack of galaxy grades. Su Xing inspected the periphery, dodging through 5 Poisons Mountain surroundings. He had yet to get a good look at this black smoke and devil fog when he suddenly heard murderous shouts. "Where are you running to? I was discovered this quickly. This efficiency is too fierce, isn't it?" Su Xing was bewildered. "Little sister, play with elder sister." Su Xing followed the sounds. Immediately he saw a figure run towards him. Behind her was an innocent small girl currently giving chase, carrying the tone of hunting prey while still declaring herself an elder sister. This scene was extremely hilarious. Suddenly, Su Xing was unable to laugh. He saw the girl's fingers pinch golden needles fine as hair. She raised her hand, and the needles were like fine rain, bearing the shadows of scorpions. Golden scorpion tail needles. Crying star, twin-tailed scorpion Xia Bao. Wu Song, why would you be together with Su Xing? Leisure star Gong Sun Huang blinked. Her obvious age seemed to very small, but she had a sort of exceedingly refined temperament, which made people feel great reverence for, where no one dared have contempt for her. Even Wu Xiao felt she herself was seemingly younger confronting her. Su Xing. You are very familiar with him. Wu Xiao's eyelids jumped, hearing from Gong Sun Huang's words hidden information. Gong Sun Huang did not speak, her expression fully directed at Wu Xiao's confusion. Your servant and he have some business that must be settled. Wu Xiao calmly replied. Gong Sun Huang nodded, neither delighted nor upset. Suddenly, the girl's brow wrinkled, and she nearly collapsed onto the floor. Gong Sun Huang, you certainly were not careful this time, Wu Xiao shook her head. She could discern that although Su Xing's power restricted Gong Sun Huang's goo poison, this was only stalling. If things went on as they were, Gong Sun Huang's star energy was almost completely devoured, and to recover would require a long time. In other words, in the evil smiting hall, Gong Sun Huang could be counted as changing direction towards withdrawing from the star duels. You truly are fortunate the one you encountered was Su Xing. Wu Xiao narrowed her eyes, spitting out a shocking sentence. Are you thinking of signing a contract with him like this? Gong Sun Huang seemingly pondered a moment, then shook her head. Wu Xiao apathetically said, "Is it that you do not wish to sign a contract with him, or that you fear he will not sign a contract with you?" Gong Sun Huang blinked but did not answer. Seeing her so indifferent, Wu Xiao no longer wanted to say anything more. She flipped out a map. On it were more or less some of the locations for the materials she needed to upgrade her star weapon. Among them, many could be found in the Vermilion Bird territory. Harm Star Wusong understood she had already lost Lin Chong in these star duels and that she could only rely on herself now. The sole advantage of acting as a star general that did not sign contracts lay precisely in upgrading star weapons. Fortunately, refusing to sign a contract, she had abundant time to go ponder this matter. "Lin Yingmei, even if you have signed a contract, your servant shall fulfill our promise," Wu Xiao muttered to herself. Gong Sun Huang sat on a square desk to the side, curiously looking Wu Xiao up and down, brimming with an expression that could not fathom the Harm Star pilgrim. Several knocks from the door interrupted Wu Xiao's contemplation. "Who?" "Excuse us, is young Lord Su Xing there?" "Your servant comes on behalf of Holy Mother Qixia." 2. The crisp sound of a woman's voice came from outside the door. "Holy Mother Qixia." Wu Xiao heard Su Xing mention before that the one commanding the region around Mount Danxia was Holy Mother Qixia. However, it was very odd that this old woman would seek out Su Xing to do something. Could it be this man fooled around with yet another woman? With a vague sense of unhappiness in her heart, she raised her hand, and the door opened on its own. 2 maidens in palace dresses of 7 colors with hair like rainbows appeared. "What is your business?" Wu Xiao did not rise at all, nor did she have the slightest appearance of etiquette. The 2 palace girls were stunned upon seeing Wu Xiao's cold and elegant manner. Seeing that Wu Xiao was unexpectedly galaxy late stage, the girl with a flower ring inserted into her hair deferentially bowed and said, "May we ask what sort of person your majesty is to young Lord Su Xing?" Wu Xiao was silent. Seeing that Wu Xiao did not reply, the 2 women felt this was odd. A long time afterwards, Wu Xiao replied without changing her expression, "Your servant is his wife. His matters can be spoken to your servant." The Gong Sun Huang inside the room blinked and slightly opened her mouth. The 2 women had already known and smiled. Young Lord Su Xing is very lucky with women to have such a beautiful and stunning wife. "Is young Lord Su Xing not present? Why do you seek him?" Wu Xiao was somewhat impatient. One girl passed over an invitation card. "Holy Mother Qixia has arranged for a feast tomorrow night, and she invites young Lord Su Xing and the madam to go attend." "What relationship does he have with you?" "We have only come for but a few days." Wu Xiao wrinkled her brow. "It seems young Lord Su Xing has not informed madam." One of the girls smiled. Young Lord Su Xing used 1 billion of pure gold to claim several goods. The Holy Mother has some things to mutually request. 1 billion gold. Wu Xiao grunted. Seeing the 2 girls had yet to leave, Wu Xiao wrinkled her brow. "Is there something else?" The women somewhat embarrassingly placed a porcelain bottle on the table. "We hear madam has a yin deficiency from intercourse. This bottle of Fine Ladies Meridian Supplement Pills, 3, is something Madam Holy Mother personally sent over to demonstrate sincerity so that Madam can restore her health." The 2 girls vaguely said. "Yin deficiency from intercourse." By the time Wu Xiao's shock passed and she came back to her senses, the other party had already left. "Does this man believe your servant does not dare kill him?" Wu Xiao's silvery teeth tightly bit together. Unexpectedly, even yin deficiency from sex had emerged. The Gong Sun Huan to the side was seemingly expressionless, but her eyes had a slightly different meaning. Crying star twin-tailed scorpion Xia Chan's thin golden needles flew, like a drizzle of ox hair, disappearing into the air and reappearing. In an instant, a golden light abruptly tore over. Let alone that Xia Chan was a small girl, her body techniques were very unusual, dodging away in the blink of an eye. "Cultivator, what are you doing interrupting me?" Xia Chan puffed up her cheeks very unhappily. Many thanks to young lord for saving me. The panicking and doubting girl said in gratitude. He saw she wore a short corset, and golden light suddenly glinted through it. Her expression was weak, and her forehead had turned purple. Astonishingly, she had been poisoned. Su Xing did not take notice of her. Immediately, he launched an attack against Xia Chan, seizing this chance to take this twin-tailed scorpion's goo poison cure for Gong Sun Huang in a burst of energy. 12 heaven-tearing swords promptly attacked. A dragon's cry boomed, chomping at the bit. The twin-tailed scorpion Xia Chan did not expect this cultivator would surprisingly fight without uttering a word. Seeing that imposing and fierce flying sword, her face turned white. Xia Chan spread her arms, and her life-cast star weapon golden scorpion fine rain needles linked together, becoming a scorpion. Ordinary artifacts simply were incapable of stopping the heaven-tearing sword's devastation, but the twin-tailed scorpion Xia Chan's destined star weapon was unknown grades higher than 9th stage. The fine needles flashed 3 stars, so it was surprisingly a 3-star star weapon. These thin needles became a rain that was like a downpour, all of which blocked the heaven-tearing's attack. Su Xing had long foreseen this, and his hand clenched the 1,000-year contract divine sword intertwined branch to immediately attack. Xia Chan was a poison expert, so she was practically incompetent in close quarters. How could she ever let Su Xing approach? Her right hand gestured, and 5 poison lights launched from her 5 fingers. Her left hand also did not hesitate, grasping the golden scorpion fine rain needles in preparation to fully use her yellow rank poison technique. Suddenly, she saw that man's hand shoot a purple dragon claw. Xia Chan's protective star tool immediately opened a barrier to obstruct this purple dragon claw. Su Xing closed his fist, raising the sky-breaking spear. The sky-breaking spear slammed against Xia Chan's barrier with a boom. This star weapon was specialized in breaking defensive magic weapons. Xia Chan tapped with her hand, and a sheet of golden scorpion fine rain needles pierced through the sky-breaking spear towards him. The golden needles carried golden poison, and Su Xing clearly sensed she was corroding his artifact. Su Xing remained expressionless. The 12 heaven tearings combined and immediately slashed. The star tool immediately shattered. Xia Chan's reactions could not compare to Su Xing's, and neither was she capable of martial force. This succession of close attacks by Su Xing already was the limit of what Xia Chan could defend against. Xia Chan originally used poison to handle generals in close quarters with great certainty, but she did not anticipate Su Xing's attacks to be this fierce. When Su Xing rushed to her front, Xia Chan screamed, "Elder sister, Mother Highness," a ripping sound. The 1,000-year contract brushed past Xia Chan's arms. Blood splattered, but Su Xing did not relent. His left hand formed a seal, and the 12 flying swords turned into a winding dragon. The golden light was colorful, tearing open the poison items and poison smoke. Xia Chan looked at Su Xing with her eyes wide, as if she wanted to firmly remember Su Xing. Her figure very quickly was executed by the flying swords. In an instant, Xia Chan disappeared before his eyes without a star fall. Evidently, she had entered the star nest. Su Xing's set of attacks could even be said to have gathered the essence of fighting with the whole body, swift to the limit. This was 5 Poisons Valley, the twin-tailed scorpion's domain. How could Su Xing dare be careless about anything? Acting on the spot was to be die in one move. However, even if it was like this, he had still allowed Xia Chan to damage the sky-breaking spear. The twin-tailed scorpion's might could be seen. The girl to the side was dumbstruck. That series of attacks just now practically passed in the blink of an eye, and she completely had not returned to her senses. Su Xing stored Xia Chan's blood away. The girl still wanted to be grateful. Su Xing pulled her hand. Seemingly as if he had seen a ghost, he left only one word, "Flee." Did he not kill Xia Bao? The girl was extremely confused. Suddenly, she heard the Jade Alum Palace explode. Turning her head, her face immediately changed. They saw a man draped in a large red cape flap his two wings, rushing over. Not good. The Rock Demon King. In this instant, she finally could be considered as knowing why Su Xing was this nervous. With Xiaobao destroyed, clearly, this would rile Lady Snake Scorpion, and now her lord husband had come to take revenge. A loud boom. A ring suddenly was located above the pair's heads. Light fell like a downpour from the ring, and that ink-like fog suddenly swiftly stirred to trap the two. A magic circle. The girl who had just obtained hope again despaired. A tiny renegade dares to come behave atrociously before this king. The Rock Demon King's cold laugh was audible from several 10,000 li away. At this time, the girl was thoroughly in despair. A supervoid cultivator had set out, so death was inevitable. Su Xing was too late to use the golden swords to break the array. He directly threw a territory-breaking talisman to break this magic weapon's script, and the two immediately ran out. Quickly halt, and this king shall spare you from death. The Rock Demon King sneered, seemingly even closer. Great Sage Falling Sky is of the Rock clan, we cannot outrun him. The girl shouted. The Rock clan was the highest peak among the Vermilion Bird Territory's high-speed clans. Their speed was innate, and a pair of large rock golden wings could take them flying 10,000 li with a single flap. The escape techniques of star cultivators all could only gaze upon his back, and to use even a supervoid cultivation to handle a Rock Clan Demon King's chase to kill was simply like coming to Mount Five Finger, next to impossible to escape. Su Xing also understood this. From the Jade Alum Palace to here was a minimum of 70 to 80,000 li, however, in the blink of an eye, that voice was increasingly near, even arriving before them. What kind of speed was this? Their escape was simply indistinguishable from a snail. Behind them, a man draped in a red cape with wings several meters wide on his back appeared. A powerful pressure pushed enough to make the sky and earth heavy. Along the roads, maids, demi-soldiers and demi-kings all knelt. Su Xing tightly clenched the jade amulet, gritting his teeth. Suddenly, he took up a flying sword and stabbed at his own stomach. Immediately, he was drenched in blood. What are you doing? The girl was alarmed. How could Su Xing have time to explain? The next second, the Rock Demon King arrived in front of them, as if a god had descended. You wish to run in front of this king? The Rock Demon King was godlike, his pressure squeezing from above, and his hands scratched towards them. Go! Su Xing's divine intent moved. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. The Rock Demon King was taken aback. He turned his head, and he saw that his quarry had suddenly escaped out close to 10,000 li. That speed was no inferior to his. Giant rock spreads its wings and flies. 5. What sort of escape technique was this strange? An amateur dares act before an expert. The Rock Demon King was furious, flapping his wings as he gave chase. Here, this is for you. Tang Lianxin opened her palm. There were several glittering golden earrings. These golden earrings were forged using the leftover dragon scales from the heaven-tearing gold dragon. The earrings appeared with the marks of dragon scales, their rays of light resplendent. And Suan picked one up in pleasant surprise. Little sister is so amazing. This astral tool was refined entirely by little sister. Tang Lianxin affirmed, without any expression on her face. This astral tool can protect you once, so it does not have too great a use. She shook her head. Her manner still maintained a sort of antisocial feeling. Ever since Su Xing and Wu Xiao left for the Vermilion Bird Territory, Tang Lianxin did not visit the immortal's abode often at all. However, Wu Xingjie nevertheless pestered her, discussing refining with her as she brought out a few materials to have Tang Lianxin forge self-protection astral tools. They never expected Tang Lianxin to actually put in the extra effort, for the 5 astral tool earrings were all exceptional. Has elder sister Lianxin not thought of signing a contract together with Su Xing? Shi Yuan and the others walked over. Seeing this earring, she handled it admiringly. They were always low on astral tools and astral treasures, and having plundered that many chests, only Lin Yingmei had been given an astral tool bodice. The thief star was thinking that if they recruited this astral tool refining solitary star, then Su Xing truly would be like a tiger that had grown wings. The other who had the same thinking was Wu Xinjie. The knowledge star actually was not worried, though. Since the solitary star had even called Su Xing big brother anyways, signing a contract was something that would occur sooner or later. Taking advantage of this to persist with a few more words in her ear would be even more assured. Tang Lianxin, there is a matter your servant wanted to ask you about. Ling Yingmei looked at the earring and was not impatient to wear it. Rather, she asked a question. What matter? Tang Lianxin's eyes were somewhat curious. Lin Yingmei was previously always taciturn, very seldom would she question people. Since you are capable of refining flying swords, then you should be clear on materials. Lin Yingmei stared at Tang Lianxin. The majestic star's words made Wu Xinjie and the others have a sudden epiphany. True. What materials? Wu Xinjie then listed each and every one of the materials to refine Su Xing's heavenly spirit earthly fiend purple star 5 elements sword for her to listen. The materials to refine the 5 elements sword were completely abnormal, and some were already extinct without any hint of a trace left. However, seeing the solitary star gold coin spotted leopard was a forging expert, it could be said for certain she could have some information. You let big brother Su Xing forge a flying sword so defiant of the natural order? Tang Lianxin's brows tightly wrinkled. She was astonished and confused. It was unknown how much time it would take to forge this sort of flying sword. This was simply a waste of time. Did you not forge the golden star sword? Too, Wu Xinjie smiled. Tang Lianxin also thought so. She carefully pondered, then replied, some of this I am not too clear on, but the Heavenly Gem Valley reportedly has the wood element swords suppressing evil gem bamboo, and the Extreme Ice Holy Palace has the water elements 10,000-year dark ice. 3. Only the Black Turtle Territory's Black Turtle Sea can produce the Gen Wu Divine Iron, 5, of the earth element sword. The fire element swords, Heaven Clinging Scissor Plumage, 6, is already depleted. Perhaps it can be found in the White Tiger territory. As far as the solar, lunar, astral and draconic swords, only during prehistoric eras did they appear. Although they had already prepared their hearts, hearing Tang Lianxin's words, they still could not help but be somewhat disappointed. It seemed that for the other 8 element swords to appear, it would not be easy. Elder sister Yanizhen has disappeared. Suddenly, Ansuan shouted in astonishment. Everyone returned to their senses and discovered the maid was not in the Void Immortal's abode at all. It seems she has gone to find young lord. Wu Xinjie smiled. Yanizhen was loyal and devoted, and compared to the young master's consolation, she completely did not care for Wu Xiao's bet. Then what shall we do? No need. If we go, we might contrarily implicate young lord. Wu Xinjie shook her head. But are we just going to idly wait like this? Overall, this young lady feels she has lost to little E. Shi Yuan was not reconciled to stand by. Lin Yingmei twitched her lips, seemingly frustrated a bit as well. Listen to elder sister's words. We are not to bring young lord trouble, but Xinjie has an even better idea. Wu Xinjie smiled. Sister Xinjie, what idea do you have? Since we have dragon-scale astral tools, let us go help Yingmei find the materials to advance her star weapon. Wu Xinjie said earnestly, Yingmei's star weapon has already fallen behind Wu Xiao's. Good. Your servant wonders how young master is faring. Lin Yingmei twisted her brow. 7. Be at ease. Let alone Wu Xiao is so resolute, Xinjie dares to make a guarantee. Should young lord truly fall into a crisis, she will not hesitate to intervene. Wu Xinjie's completely self-confident appearance made everyone somewhat unconvinced. Why does Sister Xinjie say this? She seems almost like she is very hateful of Big Brother for snatching elder sister Yingmei. And Suan said. Could it be that she fears anything that befalls young lord could spread to elder sister Yingmei? That is a mystery known only to heaven, and it absolutely will not be leaked. The knowledge star winked and mysteriously smiled. Thus, at this time, Su Xing was overwhelmed with shock. To execute his chaotic tail escape, he needed to first be heavily wounded before he could float away, but this instant of floating took him several thousand li away in a moment's breath. To Su Xing's knowledge, he did not know of an escape technique in the Azure Dragon territory that could be faster than the chaotic tail escape. The chaotic tail escape used self-harm as a precondition, and whenever it reached the highest level of the 49th layer, using it would be very shocking. Su Xing already had the chaotic tail escape refined to the 48th layer, and with this one breath, he could flee 1,000 li. How could he have anticipated that the Rock Demon King's giant rock spreads its wings and flies would be actually so abnormal to the extreme? Reportedly, it was practiced to the peak, and a flap was 100,000 li. Fortunately, this Rock Demon King was not at the apex, but a light flap of his wings took him more than 5,000 li. Even more fortunate was that the flap required several breaths' time, otherwise, Su Xing's chaotic tail escape could not outrun him. This sort of speed perhaps would render using the Purple Star Jade Amulet too late. The Rock Demon King's cold laugh seemingly could be felt across 1,000 li, and the pressure never left Su Xing's body. His silhouette was extremely swift and on the move. Su Xing flew a distance of 3,000 li in the time of several blinks, and the result was that he still was being closely clung onto by the Rock Demon King. It seemed that wherever he flew, those golden wings would appear there. Such a frightening escape technique, Su Xing had never seen this before. Even if it was those super void cultivators of the Azure Dragon territory, this sort of speed was difficult to outrun. With 10 of Su Xing's breaths he already had flown out of Falling Dragon Mountain. The demi-kings and demi-soldiers of Falling Dragon Mountain had already been shaken off light years away, but he was unable to break away from this Rock Demon King's pursuit, and the cold laughter behind him was increasingly swift and fierce. The Azure Dragon territory's cultivators unexpectedly having such a superb escape technique had made the Rock Demon King feel disbelief. Let alone star cultivators, he had never before had a worthy rival in high speed within the Vermilion Bird territory. Seeing a galaxy early-stage cultivator unexpectedly capable of being so defiant of the natural order, the Rock Demon King's killing intent wildly bubbled forth. If he could not clearly figure out what was going on, how could the Rock Demon King be at ease? The Rock Demon King shook the wings on his back, and the two wings transformed, becoming an immense sky-concealing object. Wherever it passed, shadows covered, and these shadows were even faster than the Rock Demon King. In the blink of an eye, the shadow fell beneath Su Xing's legs. Su Xing was aghast, sensitively perceiving he seemingly had been slowed. This shadow was capable of trapping him. Gritting his teeth, he cut himself several times again, and his escape technique was even faster. The Rock Demon King had already fixated on the idea of killing Su Xing, and he also fully used his power. As far as he was concerned, this was rarely seen. It is the giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li. The girl screamed in terror. This Rock Demon King was genuinely angered. The so-called giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li was not at all an actual 90,000 li in one flap. Rather, it was an enemy-killing move used mid-flight. Those shadows were the Rock Demon King's immense divine intent. This divine intent was similar to a cage, following behind Su Xing and engulfing everything. If Su Xing were to stop for a moment, then he would roll into this shadow. Once he had been captured by the divine intent, no matter how much faster he would be in the palm of the Rock Demon King's hand. It seemed the heavens had been seized, and for this reason was he called by others Great Sage Falling Sky. Hurry and think of a way to escape. Su Xing said as he fled, his face profusely sweating. even with my speed, I can't break away from this rock demon king no matter what I do. Su Xing applied all the star energy in his body to his escape, and it still was of no use. The rock demon king's divine intent and cold laughter always followed close as a shadow. Su Xing used the chaotic tail escape nearly to the point he wished he was dead. That rock demon king still pursued relentlessly, unwilling to let go. This, the girl had no words to say. Su Xing did not have hopes that she would have any solutions. The opponent was a supervoid grade cultivator. This type of cultivator had the entire world at his disposal, far from comparison to a supercluster stage. Unless his star energy was stronger by tenfold, perhaps only then Su Xing could engage in battle. His mind pondered over countermeasures when he suddenly heard the sound of crashing tides below. Fuck. If this goes on, I can only fly out of the vermilion bird territory to think of a solution. I wish the azure dragon territory won't let him be unbridled. Su Xing bit his teeth. The rock demon king behind him was closer and closer. Those low sneers seemingly were right beside his ear, throwing his state of mind into confusion. Fortunately, Su Xing had practiced the absolute sincerity soul technique. His will was seemingly bathed, without the slightest bit of being destabilized. Otherwise, if he were to slow a bit, he would be seized by the rock demon king's divine intent. How could this king be at ease without taking you? Do you believe that you can live in harmony if you can flee to the azure dragon territory? Should this king's powers be put to use at full strength, even that Emperor Liang could not protect you if he were to come. The rock demon king laughed aloud, the sound seemingly right behind his ear, making Su Xing's entire body turn cold. Su Xing was not resigned to his fate. If he really were unable to go any further, with a shake of the miraculous Bodhi tree, he could then seize the chance to use the purple star jade pendant. It was just that with this, he actually would escape back to the Void Immortal's abode. Honestly, he would not have the face to see Lin Yingmei, Wu Xinjie and the others. Until the very final moment, Su Xing did not wish to concede defeat. And at this time, the lightning flash-like pursuit between the two shook the entire vermilion bird territory. Su Xing was too fast, where basically no one could see him clearly, but that rock demon king was not the same. His wings extended, his divine intent extended, and wherever they passed, it was like Mount Tai had rolled past. Fortunately, it was fleeting, otherwise, a moment longer, and he would inevitably fall to the stage of tragic death. In an instant, everyone was discussing the matter of the rock demon king. Just now, that had to be great sage falling sky rock demon king's giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li. Who could be this powerful, unexpectedly forcing great sage falling sky to use this ability? Could it be a cultivator from the azure dragon territory? All the whispers flashed past, boiling over 1,000 mountaintops. You monster, we are star masters yet you dare chase to kill. Do you not fear the Liangshan maiden will find trouble with you? The girl on his chest let loose words of scolding. 8. Su Xing could not help but wonder whether to laugh or cry when he heard this. At this moment, holding out hope for that faintly discernible maiden mountain really was too naive. Let this king see to what time you can persevere. The rock demon king laughed aloud, seemingly sensing Su Xing's weakness. Su Xing sighed. It seemed he could only go for broke. Unless it was the purple star jade pendant, the sole solution Su Xing could think of was to thoroughly self-mutilate himself. The higher the degree of injury for the chaotic tail escape, the faster the escape technique was. Although he was somewhat unreconciled, he could not be unreconciled after encountering the one who was but the overlord of a part of the vermilion bird territory. Just at the time Su Xing prepared to use it, suddenly, he heard an air-breaking sound boom over. Staring, it was unexpectedly a god-killing arrow, imposing as a dragon. I translate the name as Vermilion Bird from the start, and I shall continue to do the same with the Black Turtle territory. Right arrow curving left 5. Right arrow curving left 6. Right arrow curving left 7. Lin Yingmei would rather be with Su Xing than search for materials. Right arrow curving left 8. The girl is indeed a star master, I can confirm that much. Right arrow curving left 9. Here she comes again. This arrow's extremely fast emergence had a calculated route, simply not giving Su Xing time to react. The 1,000 li in a flash chase between the two also simply did not anticipate anyone could launch an arrow this quickly. Furthermore, to be able to be aimed at them, this sort of accurate attack was universally shocking. Fortunately, the arrow was not at all aimed to kill Su Xing. It brushed past him, but the arrow's tip still scraped somewhat of a cut against Su Xing's face. The Rock Demon King behind him was then misfortunate. An arrow first directly ripped his expanded divine intent to shreds, and then it directly shot towards him. Luckily, his divine intent obstructed the majority of the power while the remainder still pierced through the Rock Demon King. The Rock Demon King yelled loudly, only feeling this arrow that penetrated his body wanted to churn his organs to pieces, to shatter his soul. Only by relying on the Rock clan's valiant constitution did he manage to stop it. There was an immense roar in the sky. By the time the Rock Demon King looked again, Su Xing had already become a black dot disappearing into the horizon, already unchaseable. Damn Star General! The Rock Demon King yanked out this arrow, and the arrow became light particles. Astonishingly, it was made of star energy, however, he had most probably discerned that. That escaping person should be the traveler. The person able to leave his giant rock spreads its wings and flies 90,000 li. Unable to capture was of galaxy early stage, and perhaps only with the speed star magic traveler of the star generals could this be done. Otherwise, the other star generals could not possibly intervene. Thinking of this, the Rock Demon King's heart was slightly better, but the pain of his wounds made his fury ignite. Damn Star General! He cursed again and helplessly flew back home. Su Xing fell onto the mountaintop that fired the arrow. With this speed, the star energy he consumed could not be counted. Another instant more, and he was too late to replenish it. Like this, by the time Su Xing completely was free of danger did he discover he seemingly had already reached the stage of being completely shriveled up. Even a finger was unwilling to move. Don't you, why you die? The beauty shrieked, her whole body dyed with Su Xing's blood. Your turn now. Su Xing lay down before a tree, speaking powerlessly. Mine? The beauty did not understand. If you don't save me, I really am going to die. Su Xing closed his eyes. The reason he had saved this girl in passing was for this time. The chaotic tail escape injured Su Xing into a mass of cuts and bruises. Even in the end times of bitter struggles he had previously, he never had been injured like this. This chaotic tail escape that harming others without self-benefit sure enough was malicious. Oh. The beauty nodded. Flustered, she found a pill bottle, but in the end, she found that there surprisingly were none. Su Xing actually had some, but he found he could not extend his divine intent, and thus, could not use his astral bag. Take this. A graceful voice floated over from a high place. Raising her head to look, she saw an extraordinarily soldierly woman had appeared at an unknown time on a high treetop. She wore a white pleated skirt. Her lapel, sleeves as well as her skirt had a black border. The lines were refined, and her physique was elegant in any posture. She wore a silver crystal tuinga, her silky hair dancing in the air. Seeing her look disdainfully at Su Xing and the girl, she then tossed a river jade porcelain bottle to Su Xing. The porcelain bottle brimmed with fragrance. Evidently, it was an extraordinary spirit pill. Ah, thank you, elder sister. The girl expressed her gratitude. Although this medicine could not bring the dead back to life nor cram full star energy, it was wonderfully effective on the Su Xing whose whole body was covered in injuries. Thank you to elder sister for the favor of saving his life. The girl bowed her head. I only could not bear to see that monster use his position to bully others, nothing more. the woman indifferently said. Apparently, this was a negligible matter. From her body, Su Xing could only sense a star energy even more profound than Wu Xiao's circulate. Watching her mannerisms and gestures, she was angered but dignified, with a flourishing heroism. Su Xing more or less guessed she should be a star general. Your servant is Chu He, too, of Mount Danxia. May your servant ask for elder sister's name, it is necessary that your servant cannot thank you enough. Chu He bowed. No need to trouble yourself over my name. I only want to know why would you provoke that rock demon king? Why could you break away? I only wonder what escape technique you used. The woman looked at Su Xing, slowly asking. This escape technique can only make you laugh when said out loud, chaotic tail escape. 3. Using self-harm, it can escape 1,000 li. I wonder if young lady has heard of it. Su Xing gasped. Chaotic tail escape. The woman nodded. She looked at Su Xing's whole body of injuries and was 70 to 80% convinced. Little sister Hua Rong completely is of refined mind. From a distant place suddenly came clear laughter. They saw a woman walked out. To Su Xing, who had seen so many beauties, her appearance could only count as ordinary, but her figure was fabulous. Her elegance was beautiful, her fine black hair like a waterfall. It was as if her shoulders had been carved, her waist perfectly balanced, and she wore a blue and white palace dress. Hua Rong. Su Xing heard her words and was somewhat surprised. Raising his head to look at that heroic woman, sure enough, she was a star general like he had imagined. The hero star little Li Guang Hua Rong. 5. Chu He shouted in shock, gazing with an expression of adoration at the woman. Su Xing was not surprised. From that universally shocking arrow just now, it had to be the 10,000 li god-killing arrow. Presently, the people that could fire it were very few. Humph. Hua Rong was disgruntled. She squinted, and her tone was ice cold. It truly is easy to draw you over. What do you want to do now? Your servant only wished to scale to the top of Maiden Mountain together with little sister. To this very small wish, is little sister unwilling to agree? That blue and white woman was all smiles. Do not raise that again. I will not sign a contract with anyone. For this time's Maiden Mountain, I will reach the summit by myself. The hero star's tone brimmed with self-confidence. The woman smiled. The previous generation's Wusong could reach the summit only because she had Lin Chong. One person alone has her limits. Little sister being self-confident is good, but conceit will also be abundant. You dare say that I am conceited? Hua Rong laughed. Her eyes shot cold light. I will not kill you, and that is only because I feel you are not worth killing. Elder sister Qingxi, 6, what are doing troubling her? Suddenly, an irritated voice sounded out. A beautiful figure emerged next to that Qingxi. The one who appeared was a woman of extremely high stature. She had a panel skirt, shorts and a black armband. Her riding boots tread heavily, her embroidered tube top was not covered with any outer garments, and she had black shoulder pads and gloves. Her fine, long black hair was bound with a gorgeous bandage inscribed with talisman script, which was even demonically beautiful to the extreme. Apart from this, she did not have too many accessories. Her attires could be considered bold, and she revealed a great expanse of skin that was not white, but a sort of tan. Compared to her master, the two could be said to have incomparably distinct forms. If Qingxi could be said to be like that expression that could only be drawn, nevertheless, that would be a slightly regretful beauty. Then, this tall woman was just like a beautiful azurite trapped in a prison, covered in a murderous aura from head to foot. Those black pupils demonically fierce, forcing others to not dare gaze at them. Since she is unwilling to accompany elder sister, I shall beat her into submitting under elder sister's foot. The demonic woman was cold beyond compare. Longkue, 7, you must not be so lacking in manners. Qingxi smiled. Elder sister actually wants to play with little sister Longkue. Hua Wanyue hooked a disdainful smile. Her expression sunk, and an indescribable longbow formed in her hand. The bow was painted red, its bowstring gloomy. The bow's body flickered, indistinctly revealing the sun, moon, and stars. 3 magnificent stars were extremely dazzling. The Heaven-Earth-Sun-Moon bow. 8. As expected, she was the hero star Little Li Guang Hua Rong. 5. That Longkue woman spread her arms, and 2 clumps of darkness emerged. That gloom flickered, and from time to time, demonic dancing claws could be seen, as if an azura was in the palm of her hand. Her weapon was shrouded within, and its shape was simply indistinguishable, but a forceful terror made Su Xing shiver. He was all right, but that Chu he had been scared pale in the face as she hid behind Su Xing. Longkue stepped and skyrocketed into the treetop. Shua, shua, shua. Huan Wanyue opened the bow extremely quickly, and 3 arrows followed suit. Those arrows also were not an ordinary weapons. The arrows were swift, their power fierce, and although the woman Longkue used her weapon to block, she still was pushed back by the arrow attack. Hua Wanyue drew the bow into a full moon, and starlight glittered once again. Longkue's body techniques dodged to the left once more, avoiding several arrows before she chopped towards the large tree. A boom. A tree that could be encircled by 7 or 8 people had been cleaved in 2 in the blink of an eye. Perhaps Lin Yingmei could not easily attain this sort of might. The gloomy weapon hacked it down, its murderous aura flaring up. It directly bit at Hua Wanyue, but the hero star stepped in midair, as if she had tread on a cloud. Her figure flew backwards, and the Heaven-Earth-Sun-Moon bow consecutively launched several arrows, breaking open this murderous air. Longkue's figure directly rose, just like a murderous god. That space had been ripped apart and seemingly pulled into a straight line. In practically a single breath, Longkue's attack quietly arrived beside the hero star Hua Wanyue without any indication, aiming at the hero star Little Li Guang's excellent arrow arts. The azure-like Longkue was fully aware of its power. Her seemingly impulsive and uncivilized attack first of all made calculations that were more precise than a machine's. Hua Wanyue was very surprised Longkue was this swift. The hero star's eyes narrowed, and she opened her bow to fire arrows. Her speed was extremely quick, and looking far into the distance, more than a dozen arrow pillars were like gently falling scattered willow tufts. In an instant, they formed a soaring storm. Its formidable might covered the sky and hid the earth, conforming with the chaotic atmosphere. The arrow had not yet arrived, but its murderous air arrived first. Dance through the willows. 10. A vicious and angry shout. The gloom on Longkue's hands combined into one. Black chi shot everywhere, soaring into the sky, her body following the movements of her palms. Black light flashed, and her entire person already was like an arrow, shot straight, just as if she had used her yellow rank style. One hit certain kill. The distance between the two seemingly ceased to exist. Longkue's gloom was brandished, and it slammed together with the falling willow tufts that filled the skies. Su Xing only saw the black chi almost seem to want to devour the willow tufts, but it was the hero star who was evidently a step ahead in the end. The hero star flew 100 chi upwards. The arrow's power concentrated, and the willow's flying dance successively broke this attacking prison. The mountain forest rumbled, the trees toppled, and the birds scattered in alarm. The hero star Little Li Guang abruptly pulled back on the bow and aimed at Longkue's master, Qingci. The bow was drawn into a full moon, and the arrow seemingly whistled. Qingci confidently did not move. A black shadow flung out and intercepted the arrow. I want to see between you and I just who can go farther. Hua Wanyue lightly smiled. By the time they looked again, she had already disappeared without a trace. Humph. Longkue was not resigned as she clenched her teeth. She looked askance at the Su Xing and Chu He several dozen meters away, spitting out 2 words of killing intent, you hindrances. Her body passed like black smoke, and a powerful killing intent covered them head-on. Fuck. This woman honestly was oppressive and fierce. Su Xing's body was powerless, somewhat lethargic. This honestly was escaping the wolf's mouth and into the tiger's den. Longkue, come back. Qingxi softly called out. The attacking Azura's murderous air instantly vanished like smoke into thin air. Longkue withdrew and returned to her master's side. Her eyes were seemingly looking at a dead person as she stared at Su Xing and Chu He. Excuse me, I wonder what relationship you two have with Hua Wanyue. Qingxi advanced, asking with a smile, her voice like a cleansing spring breeze. But what a pity that heaven was too impartial, giving her a songbird's throat yet with such a mediocre appearance. Su Xing was not of a generation that judged others by their appearances. Seeing that she should be a formidable star master, he naturally could not mention the matter of his being chased by the Rock Demon King. In addition, seeing that her star general was very addicted to killing, knowing that they were star masters was perhaps difficult to achieve a good ending. He replied, we just happened to pass by this place. So it turned out to be this, we have caused you trouble. Qingxi lightly smiled. Su Xing only felt that the feeling this Qingxi woman gave him was somewhat strange, but neither could he say where this strange feeling came from. Thinking afterwards, perhaps the reason was her tone and ordinary appearance. Having come to Liangshan continent for this long, Su Xing found that the women he encountered truly were those beauties from novels. Would you like to descend the mountain together? Qingxi asked. This woman is of unidentified origins, and her star general is addicted to killing. Right now, my star energy is completely drained. I can't take a good position, but journeying together only has danger. Su Xing pondered and tactfully refused Qingxi. Chu He had also been scared stiff by that black windy frenzy of Longkue's. She hid behind Su Xing, not daring to utter a word. Qingxi nodded, called for Longkue and descended the mountain. Su Xing was not in the mood to stay, but he discovered a difficult problem at this time. As a result of the Rock Demon King's deadly pursuit, he simply had not paid attention. By the time he had stopped, he found he did not know where he had come to. Looking around on the mountain, the topography was continuous and uninterrupted, endless. Clearly, this was still the Vermilion Bird territory, but he could see the ocean 100 li away, which was not like the Vermilion Bird territory. Do you know where this is? Su Xing asked. This should be the Vermilion Bird territory. Chu He thought. She seemed to feel her reply was nonsense, and the girl lowered her head in shame. The Vermilion Bird territory's mountains are countless. How could I remember any of them? Let's take a look with riding sword flight first then. Su Xing was without a choice, sending his gaze towards Chu He. I have been poisoned. I currently am incapable of using my riding sword. Chu He replied in embarrassment. Forget it. It would be better to first rest here for a few days, to recover. Su Xing shook his head. Chu He agreed, somewhat apologetic. Meanwhile, at the Jade Alum Palace, Lady Snake Scorpion sat within, her alluring face truly angered to being ashen. At the time the crying star twin-tailed scorpion Xia Bao returned to the star nest, Lady Snake Scorpion went dumbstruck. She could never have thought that within her own 5 Poisons mountain there would be a cultivator that dared to draw her attention, moreover, killing Xia Bao. She truly wanted her lord husband to drag that bastard back so she could refine his mind into a human goo. The great king has returned. A maid respectfully stepped forth. The Lady Snake Scorpion smiled. Xie Diao's eyes were gloomy, thoroughly filled with hatred towards the man who killed her sister. The large red cape entered the room, and Lady Snake Scorpion's expression tightened. Great King Dash, the Rock Demon King's body bore injuries, and his expression was seemingly very difficult. What is that man's background? How could even you, the Great King, have been? Lady Snake Scorpion was agape and speechless. This king fears it was a star general. The Rock Demon King summarized the events that transpired. Lady Snake Scorpion naturally did not believe that excuse of the Rock Demon Kings. The Speed Star Magic Traveler Dai Zong was famous as trash with martial force. How could the twin-tailed scorpion Xia Bao die by her hand? But looking at what the Rock Demon King said, there were no lies. Since the giant rock spreads its wing and flies 90,000 li had been used and still could not pursue, it could only be said that the opponent's powers actually were somewhat defiant of the natural order. The Great King had best rest well for the night. This 5 Poisons Mountain has been locked down, and the opponent is one who surely comes with ill intentions. Lady Snake Scorpion said. Then lady had best be careful. Husband shall go into seclusion. The Rock Demon King exhorted. 5 Poisons Mountains poison gas crisscrossed, and even if it was him, he was not accustomed to this sort of place. This arrow really was not that powerful, but it was just that he currently was using high-speed flight and was not on guard. For that reason, this arrow's injury was very heavy. It was necessary to return to Falling Dragon Mountains Kuan and Penghal. 2. For the purpose of safety, the Rock Demon King mobilized several dozen demi-kings to stand guard, and still ill at ease, he brought out a one-handed 3-chi sword that was just like it had been formed from condensed starlight. The sword's blade and hilt were connected as one, and its light was reserved, its light sharp, the entire sword thin as a cicada's wing. When she saw this item, Lady Snake Scorpion was dumbfounded. This sword was the treasure of Falling Dragon Mountain, the purple star grade astral treasure, Star's Falling Dragon Sword. 3. Wife must be more careful. The Rock Demon King had been struck with an arrow and could sense the terrifying nature of a star general, vaguely feeling this matter was somewhat strange. Sensing the Rock Demon King's intentions, Lady Snake Scorpion smiled passionately. Lord Husband, be at ease. Your servant will surely make those cultivators be gone forever. By the time the Rock Demon King left, Lady Snake Scorpion fiddled with this purple star-grade sword, feeling the terror of this sword. Although star weapons after 7 star already far surpassed astral treasures, with this sword in hand, even if it was a supervoid cultivator in this phase, the sword would no doubt send him to walk about inside King Yama's palace. A time of 3 days passed since the Rock Demon King's universally shocking giant rock spreads its wings and flies. Su Xing finally could count as knowing the place he was presently at. He unexpectedly had arrived at the Vermilion Bird Territory's northernmost Broken Water Mountain. This mountain was the Vermilion Bird Territory's borderline, and he could already see the sea at the other end of Liangshan continent. From southernmost to the northernmost, this escape flight unexpectedly covered 8 million li. This certainly made Su Xing go mute. If he were to return to Eastern District Mount Danxia, that would need a month's time and then some. The fastest pace would need 10 days, and of course, using the chaotic tail escape was a solution. Thus, Su Xing found joy in sorrow, gathering without much effort the spirit medicines of the evil smiting writ leisurely and carefreely. During these relaxed days, he heard a few rumors of the North District's immeasurable mountain. For example, the living goddess of lightning Wang Dinglu that plundered the birth treasure outline had fled to and hid in the North District. Immeasurable Mountain's ancestor Zhao Hua currently was on an unbridled search. A crowd of star generals had been attracted into the North District, making ancestor Zhao Hua seemingly face a great enemy. Su Xing originally wanted to steal it, but thinking of that randomly appearing and disappearing Wang Dinglu, searching any further was practically to find a needle in a haystack. Furthermore, the Azure Dragon Territory's great cultivators had come to this place for a search, and only then did Su Xing dispel this idea. And after 7 days like this, the pair that left the North District very quickly reached the Vermilion Bird Territory's Deer Pursuit. Deer Pursuit was the only place in the Vermilion Bird Territory that was without a commander. This place was occupied by more than 100 demi-kings, each occupying 100 mountaintops. Because of this, these demi-kings joined in opposition against outside enemies, and there was no lack of hermit adepts that could be placed on par with demon kings. For this reason, Mount Danxia's Holy Mother Qixia, Falling Dragon Mountain's Rock Demon King, Immeasurable Mountain's ancestor Zhao Hua, as well as Silver Night Mountain's Holy Mother Yu Chun all could not be injured. In addition, Deer Pursuit overlooked the 4 other districts, acting as a buffer zone had been tacitly preserved by everyone. Because of this, the center district could even be said to be Demi-King Deer Pursuit, a fierce anomaly. Su Xing had once thought of usurping the Deer Pursuit, learning from that rock demon king to independently become king. With this, the Azure Dragon Territory's 10 great sects would be nothing difficult. This was the quickest strength-preserving approach because the Vermilion Bird Territory respected the strong, often looking to whose fist was large. However, Su Xing's current strength could not be said to be very weak. Choosing the Vermilion Bird Territory's Demi-King was not hard, but nevertheless, there was not a guarded mountain with capital. This kind of matter also needed to be planned from within, actually giving Su Xing a very big epiphany. On this day, Su Xing and Chu He flew to a borderline mountain top of Center District Deer Pursuit, Firehorn Mountain. 5. They directly received a high temperature that overflowed the skies. Firehorn Mountain, although it only had a range of less than several 10,000 li, Firehorn Mountain was actually a volcano. All year round, there was a raging inferno, rushing into the horizon. From far away, the temperatures were extremely high. Let alone humans, even cultivators were incapable of enduring the high temperatures, and the temperatures in the middle need not be said. The one governing Firehorn Mountain was the Fire Shadow Clan. 6. These clan members were fire energy experts, controlling fire as if it was an arm, very exceptional. The Fire Shadow Clan's character was violent like a flames. The surrounding demi-clan cultivators all were not willing to provoke them. Originally, Su Xing was not at all willing to travel to this Firehorn Mountain, but it seemed Chu He was very anxious to rush back because going to Firehorn Mountain could save a few days' time. The pair already flew to the highest place, and that burning was still fierce as before. A woman materialized beside Chu He. That woman had long hair and wore blue treasure clothes that were sleeveless with a skirt dragging along the ground. She had boots and a corset, and from the blue light that flickered in her eyes, Su Xing was unsurprised to know that Chu He was a star master. It seemed Firehorn Mountain still made Chu He feel danger, for she made her star general stick to her side. Her premonition was awfully accurate. At the time they entered Firehorn Mountain, flames rushed into the sky. Several dozen red shadows encircled them with subtle shuffling. These people wore red armor, and their faces had been half covered. Their hands grasped fire swords while they were equipped with scarlet armor. Among them, the leading man was Galaxy Early Stage, and his legs stood upon a fire cloud. His hand grasped a fire spear. Brazen thieves, you would go so far as to dare pass over this mountain on your own without asking Great King Firehorn for permission. The man's forehead had a flame horn, and his eyes were penetrating. Judging by his expression that stared at Chu He Star General with evil intentions, Su Xing could guess that the not asking part was false. Perhaps Chu He Star General had already evoked in Great King Firehorn covetous thoughts. Su Xing looked out the corner of his eye. Those Fire Shadow clansmen already began to surreptitiously lay a fire-type array. They were somewhat scheming. Your servant is Chu He, serving under Mount Danxia's Holy Mother Qixia. Your servant has some business to return to the mountain. For lacking manners like this, your servant apologizes. Chu He said. Mount Danxia. Great King Firehorn was startled. His eyes turned, do not deceive me. You must have the Mount Danxia token. Yes. Having been surrounded by this demi-clan, Chu He did not dare be trusting. Her star general had been killed back into the star nest, and she had only recovered just a bit currently. If they actually fought, there perhaps would be no good fruit to eat within someone else's territory. Bring it over for this king to inspect. Great King Firehorn shouted. Just at the moment Great King Firehorn went to catch the token, suddenly, the token had been snatched away by Su Xing. Are you making fun of this king? Great King Firehorn's voice was cold, fire chi shooting in all directions. Will you truly let us pass if you get it? Su Xing slowly asked. Of course. If it truly is the Holy Mother of Mount Danxia, this king naturally will be hospitable. Great King Firehorn said. Su Xing grunted, then threw the token. Great King Firehorns had somewhat of a mocking expression. These stupid cultivators. By the time this king obtains your token, then we shall properly deal with you. One hand caught the token, and in an instant, he saw a purple lotus flower. That lotus flower was incomparably strange, and it was stuck behind the token. Because the throw speed was too quick, it was practically linked with simply no way to perceive it. Not good. Great King Firehorn greatly changed. Su Xing coldly smiled. A purple lightning net violently opened and captured Great King Firehorn within. Su Xing subsequently gestured, and 12 flying swords assembled into a sword array that broke open Great King Firehorn's raging inferno. The swords pressed against his whole body, golden light flickering. As long as Su Xing willed it, they could destroy this demi-king. Let alone that some of the Vermilion Bird Territory's demi-kings were galaxy early stage, in actuality, they were very ordinary in Su Xing's eyes. A few demi-king did not practice any sort of ability, and neither did they have any superb magic weapons. They completely relied on their demi-clan's innate gifts to declare themselves overlords, just like the Great King Devil Mask last time that was incapable of holding back even Su Xing's flying swords. Even other galaxy cultivators could at least release flying swords and such. It could be seen these demi-kings were all somewhat intelligent and good-looking, so of course some demi-clans and demi-kings were indeed frightening. Actually, Great King Firehorn relied on Firehorn Mountain's exceptionally favorable location and had excellent abilities, but he simply did not anticipate Su Xing would suddenly rebel. Furthermore, that flying sword was sharp and fierce. The purple lightning unexpectedly broke the fire chi protecting him, and by the time he returned to his senses, he was already restrained by the flying swords, incapable of moving a muscle. You cunning cultivator! Great King Firehorn cursed. Su Xing coldly smiled. He abruptly smashed a jade plate in his hand towards the demi-king's forehead. Great King Firelord screamed in fright, and the jade was smashed against him. The jade plate transformed, and a blazing totem appeared. Su Xing shook the jade plate. Master, please spare me. Demi-King Firehorn screamed in pain. He crawled upon the fire cloud, and the other Fire Shadow Clan members immediately trembled and knelt. They could see that the jade plate in Su Xing's hand was the God Sealing Plate 7, an immemorial secret treasure specially used to capture demi-kings. This was opportune, for Su Xing had obtained it from Demi-King Golden Wings and refined it on the road. Originally, he had not hoped to capture a demi-king. After all, these demi-kings were far from being that easy to capture. If it was not appropriate, provoking the retaliation of the other demi-kings created benefits outweighed by the losses, but this nevertheless was a golden opportunity bestowed by the heavens. Now, he had actually appointed its use. In nearly the blink of an eye, Su Xing became the Great King of Firehorn Mountain. Chu He was stupefied, and she had not yet clearly understood how this sort of excessive transformation took place. The interior of the cave was extremely hot that it was simply like being in the center of an underground fire. Chu He was unable to take it and retreated to outside the mountain, which made Great King Firehorn secretly sneer. Although this servant had been captured by a trace of divine intent by the god's sealing plate, he nevertheless was not resigned to be so. Su Xing knew this, yet he remained unmoved. He discreetly swallowed that 5 spirits magic fire relic, for this 5 spirits magic relic's nature was categorized as fire type. When it entered his throat, there was a brief fiery sensation, but the 5 spirits magic relic immediately began to exhibit its function when it slowly redirected the surrounding high temperatures to the entrance. The fire spirit relic originally was the condensed form of a tool refinement master's quintessence, and this tiny underground fire naturally was not to be feared. When Great King Firehorn saw Su Xing so at ease amidst the underground fires, the carefreeness was somewhat alarming. He did not know what the background of this cultivator was, but even if it was his own body that had trained more than 50 years in the fire spirit transformation, too, the high temperatures of the underground fires in the cavern were adapted to only with great difficulty. Seeing Su Xing capable of acclimating in no more than the blink of an eye, the blaze seemingly being absorbed into the skin of his body was not at all like the appearance of a self-protection magic weapon. Immediately, his heart was endlessly reverent. This fire horn mountain actually is an extremely good fire vein to train fire-type cultivation methods. Su Xing inwardly said. It was a pity his 5 styles refinement had still not yet learned how to have the thunder style ignite a fire. Otherwise, refining the fire system true vigor in his body perhaps would not need more than a month to reach the transforming realm. The entire cavern established within the interior of Fire Horn Mountain was known as Fire Cloud Hall. 3. It was constructed entirely from the fire crystal indigenous to Fire Horn Mountain, and it was constructed with the utmost care and attention. The fire chi was pressing, and it dispersed over the towns in the hall's surroundings. Although it could not compare in elegance, it nevertheless was embellished with a secretly allowed fire spirit magic circle. Even though it welcomed enemies, it was a superb array. Fire Cloud Hall's interior was very enormous, with 100 or so stone rooms 10 zhang tall. Fire crystals acted as stools, and the ground was covered with fire pelts. Infernos burned, the high temperature was strong, and the odd flora and essence jade of fire spirit decorated very luxuriously. This Fire Horn Mountain at the center district Deer Pursuit attained a small escape. Relying on the exceptional geography and environment, no one rushed over to provoke them. In this Fire Horn Mountain, besides the Fire Shadow clan, there were also more than 10 fire-natured clans as well as several demi-kings with more than 5,000 demi-troops. However, the Fire Shadow clan relied on their innate skills to take possession of these precious grounds in the Fire Horn Mountain. Paying respects to the great king. A crowd of demi-clansmen and soldiers knelt inside the hall. All of them were powerful characters of Fire Horn Mountain, and each had cultivation that was galaxy stage or above. However, while their cultivation appeared very good, their foundations were quite weak. Who among you is capable of a sword chant? Su Xing asked. The dozens of cultivators inside the hall looked at each other in dismay. For a main hall with this many galaxy stages, unexpectedly, not one of them was capable of sword chant abilities, which made Su Xing genuinely somewhat disappointed. The Vermilion Bird Territory's demi-clans all relied on the cultivation methods within their clans since time immemorial, always passing their practice for the sake of not breaking the traditions of their clan. Things like sword chants naturally were widespread in the Azure Dragon Territory, while the Vermilion Bird Territory originally had very few. In addition, the materials to construct the flying sword of the sword chant were also precious. The Vermilion Bird Territory was abundant in every kind of magic medicines, but ores and jades were actually very scarce. For this reason, sword chants were very rare to see. However, there was also another reason, which was that the Vermilion Bird Territory's demi-clan were incapable of nurturing flying swords inside their bodies like the Azure Dragon Territory's cultivators. Thus, sword chants naturally were rare. I do not have interest in staying often in this Vermilion Bird Territory. Capturing you can be considered something you brought upon yourself. Master lectures rightly. Great King Firehorn was sincere and earnest, with fear and trepidation. I have many important matters to attend to, and since I have captured you, naturally I shall not treat you unfairly. These cultivation methods shall be left with you. Practice them yourselves, and someday, perhaps they will have some use. Su Xing thought, and he brought out fundamental cultivation methods. These cultivation methods were obtained when he killed Ancestor Heavenly Fire. They were of no use to Su Xing, and giving them to this Fire Shadow clan now was just perfect. Gratitude to Master for your favor. Su Xing's magic energy was profound and deep. It was not something Great King Firehorn was capable of imagining. Although he had been instantly subdued, his heart was still somewhat uncomfortable. Now hearing that Su Xing was bestowing texts, he was briefly rather startled. Originally, he had thought these would be some trash cultivation methods to console them, and Great King Firehorn was even somewhat smug with mockery. However, when he saw those texts and rare books, he immediately was endlessly moved. And how could the astral bag of ancestor heavenly fire have trash cultivation methods? If they were not high grade, then they were supreme grade. How could these vermilion bird territory demi-soldiers that were poor and destitute not rejoice when they saw this? The vermilion bird territory's myriad demi-clans each had special abilities, but they did not have a standard system like the Azure Dragon territory. Thus, relying on every sort of magic medicine and ley line to cultivate their magic energy to profound levels was somewhat all talk but no action in meaning. The Azure Dragon territory was extremely stringent with their blockade against the Vermilion Bird territory. Powerful cultivation methods could not be circulated over so as to avoid expanding the enemy's wings. Consequently, the Vermilion Bird territory incomparably yearned for what was in the Azure Dragon territory that they would invade at that time. Now, with the cultivation methods that Su Xing granted, Firehorn Mountain was just like it was a grade higher than the other clans. A crowd of generals including Great King Firehorn accepted these willingly, paying their respects for Su Xing's kindness. The Vermilion Bird territory had always respected the strong, and Su Xing used a galaxy early-stage cultivation to capture Great King Firehorn. Entering the center of the underground fires, then showing deep profundity, and now bestowing high-grade fire-type arts, with these 3 steps, how could these not make them submit? Their hearts recognized that Su Xing perhaps was a great monster that hid his cultivation. Su Xing nodded in satisfaction. He planned to first rely on Firehorn Mountain to open a gap into deer pursuit. Firehorn Mountain's environment just so happened to give Su Xing the opportunity to conceal himself. Which bastard dared to bully Dad? 5. From outside the hall suddenly came a voice. Su Xing looked over and saw a fragrant girl draped in red muslin rush in. Her red hair and crimson eyes were pretty, but what made Su Xing pay attention were the 12 flying swords that hovered behind the woman. Surprisingly, she was capable of a sword chant. "Daughter, you must not be rude to master." Great King Firehorn hastily shouted. 6. Fire without shadow. 7. Go. The girl chanted and made hand seals. The 12 fire shadow flying swords whooshed over to attack Su Xing. These flying swords could only count as mid-rank in Su Xing's eyes. Su Xing flicked his fingers, and the Purple Mansion Immortal's thunder was launched, just like a dragon as it grabbed hold of the flying swords. Everyone in the main hall was astonished. This was the first time they had seen Immortal's magic. The girl's complexion turned pale. Nevertheless, she spat, spouting out a burst of earthly fire. "Daughter, desist." Great King Firehorn split open the earthly fire with a palm. "Dad." The girl angrily looked at Su Xing with confusion. This deceitful man used some despicable trick, how could that be considered open and candid? If you have the skill, then determine just who is higher with this princess. Fine. Su Xing nodded, and one heaven-tearing flew out. The purple thunder lightning claw broke, and the girl urged the 12 flying swords to shoot forth. That heaven-tearing sword slashed unstoppably, cutting down the 12 flying swords. Heaven-tearing was an immemorial sword chant, forged of supreme-grade materials. How could it be compared with those flying swords that girl had? Ah! When the girl saw her sword chant was unexpectedly incapable of handling one flying sword, she was stunned, but she smirked. Su Xing felt this was strange. Suddenly, he saw the girl's forehead flash a star crest. A fiery shadow, with 2 eyes of scarlet, just like a male lion attacked towards Su Xing. A star master. Seeing that Great King Firehorn's expression was complex, Su Xing immediately realized when this Great King Firehorn initially robbed Chu He, it was perhaps because of her identity as a star master. Su Xing dodged, and he saw a scarlet fire iron chain hammer ruthlessly pulverize his seat. How could Su Xing dare be careless confronting a star general? He fired a purple mansion immortal's thunder to break this blaze. The opponent also wanted to score a quick victory. She wanted to instantly get rid of Su Xing to avoid him activating the god's sealing plate. That scarlet fire iron chain pierced through the purple thunder, and the iron chain was bathed in a fire cloud. Each and every one of these fire clouds were like demonic lions that pounced at Su Xing. Su Xing sent out 12 flying swords, and heaven-tearing slashed with whooshes, eliminating these swan and eye fires. The golden swords roared with a dragon's cry, and they became a net. This star general was seriously formidable. Her figure seemingly flew, and seeing her iron chain fling, the fire jade in the hall had been shattered on impact. The iron chain then shot straight at Su Xing. Heaven-tearing formed a shield of swords to block this chain. Suddenly, an unclear figure appeared behind Su Xing. The opponent had surprisingly abandoned her weapon in order to attack. Her hands grasped claws, and her expression had the ominous glint of red fire, just like a vengeful lion, swift and severe. Su Xing only felt a powerful pressure heavily bear upon him, and his body seemingly was out of control. Not good. It was a yellow rank battle tactic. Su Xing promptly felt this sort of oppressive imposing air originated in the Star General's finishing move. If an ordinary cultivator had been pounced on by her, perhaps they would have already been frozen by her imposing air, and then have had their necks snapped. However, put any way, Su Xing had received Lin Yingmei's and Yan Yizhen's baptism. His movements truly were like lightning, for his left hand moved forward to protect his throat while his right moved backwards to grab. 8. The opponent's sharp claws grabbed onto Su Xing's hand, and it was as if it had been seized by a lion. There was a scorching hot pain, and the sharp claw continuously pressed down to tear Su Xing's windpipe. Su Xing's right hand at this time grabbed a jutting, soft object. Shockingly, it was that Star General's breast. The Star General froze, and her lion claw also turned sluggish. Su Xing took advantage of this opportunity, and he imparted a purple mansion immortal's thunder onto his palm. With a shallow cry, the girl was pushed back several paces. The Star General honestly was incredible to surprisingly not have been knocked unconscious. The Star General had been repelled and was about to charge. Su Xing could be considered to know from personally the experience of fighting ordinary star cultivators and martial force star generals. As expected, a fiend star was troublesome. Seeing that she still wanted to charge, Su Xing clutched the miraculous Bodhi tree, considering whether or not to kill her contractor. At this time, he heard the girl shout, "Rongxin, 9, stop." Only then did the Star Maiden's arched body slowly resume a cautious stance. The fire fog scattered, and Su Xing saw distinctly the appearance of the Star General in front of him. The woman was abundantly beautiful, her features extremely so. Her pupils were like rubies, and her long, curled red hair seemingly burned like a flame. She wore a fire jade tiara, and she was draped in swan and eye armor. She hefted an iron chain hammer filled with essence fire. What a demonic Star General, especially those eyes that were harsher than a lion's, gazing at Su Xing wishing she could devour him alive. Raging Heaven's Starfire Hammer. 10. It turned out to be the ranked 49th whole star fiery-eyed swan and eye Deng Fei. 11. Looking at her towering chest, the exposed half of that perfect roundness had a hand imprint. Su Xing then knew what she was resentful about. It seemed that Star Generals were still women after all. Enough, you are not allowed to make trouble. Hurry and come pay respects to Master. Great King Firehorn yelled. Looking at Su Xing, he was secretly startled. A galaxy early stage that unexpectedly could handle a Star General was actually inconceivable. His heart was even more firm in believing Su Xing was a monster that concealed his cultivation had reached annihilation. In order to avoid Su Xing resentfully killing his daughter, he hastily shouted to stop her. That maiden's long hair was spry and lively, her figure graceful, especially that hair that was thoroughly red like a flame. She was known as Firehorn Mountain's Princess Yan, 12, and her character was also somewhat irascible. How could she be resigned to see her father become a prisoner under the stairs? Now seeing that she had been ordered to stop, and then seeing her own star general unable to kill Su Xing in a spurt of energy and give him a chance for the god's sealing plate, she was briefly dumbfounded where she was, embarrassed and at a complete loss. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.